Lined into the gap in left center. Base hit. Fermin knocks it down. 2 runs will score. And the Brewers add a couple more as Ferrario ripped into right center, a base hit. Mitchell scores. Sanchez puts on the brakes. It's 8-2 Brewers on an RBI single by Ferrario. Pratt fair inside the bag. Sanchez will score. Ferrario around third. He'll be set. It's a 2-run double for Cooper Pratt. The Brewers have hung a 10 spot on St. Louis.
That sucked. That audio courtesy of the Brewers TV network alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. It was maybe the first time all year, Alex, that I've been mad at the Cardinals.
Whoa.
I think for the most part...
Trouble in paradise?
I think for the most part this season, even if you disagree with individual decisions, you can pretty much understand everything they've done. Even if it takes a little longer than you would want as a fan, for the most part, they have, whether it's Ollie's in-game decisions or Heim's roster choices, you can see the rationale behind it. Like, when they called up Blaze Jordan, it made sense. When they call up Nelson Velasquez, it made sense. When they made the move to go to Jimmy Crooks as one of their primary catchers, made a lot of sense. When they switched the center field situation and it was Nathan Church getting the runway over Victor Scott, all right, I get this. This makes sense. Their decisions were basically dictated by the numbers, by the performance. I would say the one caveat to all of that is Matthew Liberatore, and I've had my gripes with that, but I at least understand the rationale that they want the depth. Okay, I disagree with it, but I can understand it. Yesterday was the first time really in a long time that I looked at it and I was like, this feels a lot like what it was under Mo, where they call up Zimmerman in game 1, and I was like, you know what, I get this. He's going to give you bulk innings, totally understand.
Sacrificial lamb.
100%. Throws 170 pitches, right? And then in game 2, my expectation is, all right, this is where we get Gastelum.
Yep.
And he's been amazing down at AAA over the last month. He's got like an 18-game scoreless streak going down there for the Redbirds. He probably, in my opinion, should have been called up before now, but he's getting his chance. And instead, Alex, a guy I truly, legitimately did not remember until yesterday at like 3 o'clock was at Memphis. Jared Shuster is added to the active roster.
That poor guy.
He had an 8 ERA at Memphis. What did they think was going to happen there? Like, when the guy has an OPS over the last month against of 1,000, that's not me exaggerating. Literally, opposing hitters had an OPS of 1,100 over the last month against Jared Shuster at AAA.
It's just because the ball carries in Memphis.
Yeah, he was good in May. I don't know what your problem is, man.
He had not gone more than 2 innings in a game in the last 3 months. So this was not about effectiveness.
He did it twice in May.
This was not about getting deep into a game. It was just about, again, to use Alex's phrase, a sacrificial lamb who can come to the major league level.
And boy, was he.
If you're going to do that, just, in my opinion, go to Bryson Motts, who can at least give you length, right? At least then you have the opportunity to use this guy for multiple innings. Now, my guess is the Cardinals would say, well, the walk numbers, there are probably some retorts, whether you think they're fair or otherwise, that you could go with for Motts. He's thrown 44 total pitches in the last 9 days. I would think he would have been available in some capacity yesterday, Alex. They chose not to. Instead, they go to Shuster, and I had a lot of gripes with it. I was very annoyed last night. In fact, I would say I was angry, again, for basically the first time this year. How did you feel about the way they deployed their bullpen? Not so much from a managerial perspective, because you got to go with what's given, but from a front office who is available for the manager to choose from.
I mean, look, the Zimmerman one, I didn't have an issue with, because to me, I had the same thought you did. Like, that was a game that they were just the sacrificial lamb. We're not really worried about it too much. We're worried more about the night game and then the next 2 versus Milwaukee. The Shuster, when I saw the transaction, I was thinking, wait, what? Because I thought the Gastelum move was going to be upgrading the bullpen and making this lethal for them, so they had more guys that they could use in those high leverage situations. And bringing up a guy like Jared Shuster, who was just officially another sacrificial lamb, was looking at it as, so you're basically just saying this doubleheader, good luck. And to me, the Shuster move doesn't match the other decisions made by the front office of Velasquez and Blaze Jordan and Nathan Church going for Victor Scott and sending Nolan Gorman down, because all of those decisions were made off of, look, this is helping the development, but it's also helping our team now because these guys are hitting, and if you're not going to hit, you don't get the chance to come up and play for our team. So why on the pitching front is it, well, if you're not pitching well in the minors, then congrats, we'll give you the shot. Versus guys who have been legit pitching well like a Gastelum or a Bryson Motts or a Quinn Matthews. So to me, this back-to-back doubleheader resembled a lot more of what I thought the Cardinals were going to be doing this season than what I've seen in the first couple of months. Of that game, those games yesterday, this series against Milwaukee, really feels like more of the rebuild mindset than it does let's try and win right away.
Man.
Which, look, you can get upset. I'm upset too because I've had fun. Chaim Bloom has legitimately been telling everybody from day one, this is about the long-term process.
You're right.
We've gotten over our skis because
I'm
of
gonna
Walker.
get mad at it.
I know, but you can't.
No, time out.
I want to make the playoffs.
No.
Hey, I get in trouble for this. This is my version of being my wife for a moment. She gets upset because
wait, put yourself in the doghouse.
Hold on a minute.
You know this, Alex. You've worked with me long enough.
No, I never get upset with my wife.
No. You know me and how pragmatic I am. I am about like logic and reason, right? I don't get overly emotional. I'm about, okay, this is what the best possible path forward is.
Unless it's the Cardinals.
This is one spot where I get emotional. Because if you have a chance to compete, maybe not contend for a World Series, but to compete for a playoff spot, and you punt on that, I think the baseball gods will look upon that with a whole heck of a lot of karma coming into your future. Because, like, look at the Tigers this year, man. They punted on a potential playoff berth last year, basically. Or any real contending aspirations. And look what's happened to them. Look at them. They just walked away from their third base coach in a mutual parting of ways like a week ago. Well. And their team stinks and they're going to trade Tarek Skubal and you might as well fold the franchise if you're doing that. Like, that's what could be the Cardinals' future. It's not guaranteed that it gets better from here. So I just want everybody to recognize that.
But didn't we go into this with Chaim Bloom saying we're going to give him the opportunity and the faith in him pushing this organization in the direction they need to go?
Sure.
So if the guys
within reason,
if the guys
don't punt on a season.
If the guy's plan from day one was to build towards something, and he believes that the team is just not in the position that can succeed to the level that they want to succeed, which is being a competitive team that can win the World Series every year,
that's not realistic.
That's fine. That's what he wants to do. And he's been telling everybody that's the direction we're going to go.
It's not realistic to be an annual contender anymore in Major League Baseball. Yeah, after tanking
Dodgers
for a decade. Okay, as the top spender in Major League Baseball.
Cap. And maybe Chaim's rooting it on.
By the way, if that happens, everything about roster building changes.
Yeah.
Like, if you get a cap in Major League Baseball, what you're doing right now, it's hamstrung because it changes everything, and now there's going to be a new way to build your roster. So you can't assume that that's going to be the case either.
I can assume whatever I want to assume. If you can get mad over Chaim telling you what he's going to do, I can assume.
I just don't know.
By the way, I am a little upset. Like, to me, there was no point in putting a Jared Shuster into that role.
I can't believe it.
That's
even if they think... I don't know if they do, but even if they think Bryson Motts sucks, like he's just awful, and he's going to come up here and get his teeth kicked in, and that's part of why they made the decision that they did.
Well, Jared Shuster was going to do that too.
Exactly. And at least with Bryson Motts...
But would you rather go with sacrificial lamb for one game versus a guy that you hope is a starting pitcher for you long term?
Why can't he be a sacrificial lamb yesterday for one game?
Because if I'm Bryson Motts after a performance like that, I don't know if I want to see Major League Baseball again for a year.
Well, then that's on him. Right, like if he's going to have
you know what you got to be a big leaguer? Mentally tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. That was my argument last year when they'd tell me they were afraid Pallante would lose his confidence if he went down to the minors. Okay, so you're telling me he's not a big leaguer then? Now, to be fair, Pallante's proven me wrong. That guy's been awesome this year. But I the thing for me was, look, to me it was more of a Shuster versus Gastelum decision yesterday because I don't know if Monts was available 44 pitches 2 days ago. Maybe he's not available, especially a guy that's a starter, maybe not used to that kind of a role, right? Okay, so why not go Gastelum yesterday? You could potentially have pieced it together 2 innings with him.
Why not have gone to Monts on Friday?
Sure.
You could have done that. They clearly were planning for this, where they were going to need innings over the last 48 hours. They chose Saturday as the day to get Bryson Monts his touch at the minor league level.
Well, and I think this goes back to what you had brought up yesterday and the thing they wouldn't like, but I think it was we're going to give ourselves our best shot in the Cubs series, and we're not going to worry about a bulk reliever then. We're just going to unload all of our bullets, and we will kind of wave the white flag on the first 3 games of the series to Milwaukee. Really, the doubleheader. They had a chance in the first game, to be fair.
They should have won it.
Yeah, it's more of the, kind of wave the white flag on the doubleheader, and then hopefully we take care of business for the next 5 games before the All-Star break.
They damn well better finish the first half strong. Because I'm very curious, and we'll talk about this on the other side. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN How much damage did the last really 24 hours, but you can even go back as far as the last 4 games. How much damage has this done for the fan base? This was a group, Alex, here in St. Louis, the Cardinals fans, that were electrified. They were ignited by the way that the team started off this season. There was the Tarps Off movement. There was Jordan Walker's MVP campaign, J.J. Weatherholtz, the young guys, this breath of fresh air with the new regime in charge. Like, it felt as though there was something different, new, and fresh about the 2026 Cardinals. And over the last 4 days, it's felt very much like the old St. Louis Cardinals. How much damage has that done toward this fan base for the remainder of this season? We'll get into that coming up on the other side here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. From the 618, all due respect, you guys are having the most outrageous overreaction to a 3-game stretch that I've ever heard on the station. First of all...
Is it a 3-game stretch, though?
4. First of all, that is disrespectful to some of the overreactions that we've had on the station.
Yeah, we've had some real intense ones.
Including on this show. So I don't appreciate that. And second of all, I don't think it's an overreaction.
Also, you lost to the Royals, the Diamondbacks, and the Marlins before you played the Braves. So, come on, this goes back more than 4 games.
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think the way that they have utilized their roster, to me, my personal opinion on it, has felt a lot like what it was previously, where it's all 40-man stuff. They've been so scared to make moves with their 40-man recently that it prevents them from getting their best guys onto the roster. And the way that they've been handling Bryson Motts, who maybe they just disagree with my assessment of Bryson Motts, but I think he's a better option than, at a minimum, Jared Shuster. The way that they've been handling him, I don't think has been helpful for his development or for the major league roster. And when you're not serving either of those two purposes, what exactly is the goal with him? So I think they've just been caught up in the middle right now. They've been stuck. Some of this is by circumstance. The stuff with Dustin May, whether it's the back or the ankle, that hurt. Having McGreevy and Palante both have to get pushed back a day, that does not help. But I think that they have made some mistakes here, personally, with the way that they've been utilizing their roster lately.
To the overreaction on that with the 40-man roster, I mean, does anybody feel like Cesar Prieto's having a big role in this team's ability to win baseball games right now?
Or in the future, no.
Because I think a Luis Gastelum, who has been striking out a lot in AAA, could help in that sense. So
100%. How about Joe Alpozo? If you don't want to do the Prieto one, and that's fine. He's younger, and he's been at least Prieto has been hitting at AAA.
If you look at Pozo's number, he's not even hitting.
He's been terrible at AAA. He's hitting like 215 down there. So, and it is your most stacked position in the organization. That is the one to me that you can really look at it and say, what are we doing here? Why is he still on the 40-man?
And I know that he's off of it now, but basically up to about last week, Chris Roycroft had been on your 40-man roster. And it was pretty obvious that they used him, and they were like, okay, this wasn't going to work at all. We're moving on from you. You could have had a Gastelum in that spot a month ago, who could be providing more help in the back end of your rotation. Again,
that was the Rajic spot, right, that they put him onto the 40-man with? Am I wrong on that?
No, it was. Okay. I believe that's right.
So they basically chose Rajic over Gastelum, and I think Gastelum could have been better than Rajic. And
it doesn't line up
for Rajic that he's hurt.
Sorry about that, Rajic. It doesn't line up with the decisions that they were making early when they said, well, Blaze helps us now and for the future. Victor Scott's not hitting. Nathan Church helps us now and for the future. Like Nelson Velasquez, he helps us now because we need that power. But with a guy like Gastelum, that can help you now and can help you in the future because he's a bullpen arm that you can get more results on. They said, no, we're going to go with a multitude of guys that are just going to be guys that we DFA once we get them blown up.
I wasn't really that frustrated by the roster moves for the first game yesterday. I get it. What bothered me was the Shuster move. And you had an opportunity to win that game until he appeared. Like that's when everything went sideways.
Sorry, Jared.
They were in the top of the 7th inning, and they were down 3-2. Now, your offense also wasn't good enough against Gasser yesterday. He said it was his first time getting that deep into a game since, like, middle school or something.
Ouch.
So that's also a discredit to the offense. They needed to be better yesterday. It wasn't just your pitching, but when Shuster came in, home run, strikeout, walk, double, infield, single, walk, single. That was the 8 batters that he faced, and he recorded like an out. That was of his own doing. So, yeah, that's unacceptable. And I don't really know what else I can say about it other than that was the problem for them yesterday. He allowed 7 earned runs, and it was a non-competitive game from there on out. So much so that Brian Torres covered not 1, but 2 innings of relief for you yesterday.
Looked good yesterday in relief.
No hits allowed. So that's a good outing by him.
Watch out now.
As he was throwing somewhere between 35 and 45 miles per hour.
Two-way player in the future.
To get to the question at hand, how much, if any, Alex, damage was done to the relationship between the Cardinals and this fan base over the last 4 days or so, with the way that they've approached things from their roster, with the losses that have started to pile up over the last few days. How much damage do you believe has been done?
Are you asking short-term or long-term?
Short-term, because long-term,
Yeah.
I don't know that this will really make a huge difference, but short-term.
I'm going to forget about Schuster by like tomorrow.
I was hoping to forget about him by today, but it didn't work. Thanks, guys. I can only speak for myself. I don't feel like much of the relationship has been damaged on this one because I feel like they built up more of a trust in what they had done early on this season that I look at the decision with Jared Shuster, and as much as I don't like the decision, it's a one-off compared to what they've done with Blaze Jordan and Velasquez and all these other pieces. And I just instilled some trust into Chaim Bloom when he took over. Now, I don't want to be hypocritical because if Mo was in Chaim's seat, I would be screaming right now at this. But I think Mo was in more of the we think we can compete and win versus a Chaim Bloom who has basically said, like, yeah, we want to compete, but there's a long-term picture in this. So just for me, I don't feel like it's tarnished at all. I definitely look at them differently than what I did about 2 weeks ago, to where I thought they could compete and there was a reason to buy. And now after the Schuster move and what they've done in these last 4, I do think they're probably leaning more towards the blow it up and sell the pieces off. But I think for a majority of Cardinals fans, it's a little different because they probably bought a lot more love into this team than what I originally did early on.
Yeah, I feel like this was, maybe it's more a reflection of me than it is a reflection of the fan base.
Well, considering how that first segment went, I would agree.
I felt kind of like a kid who, if you're in the car with a young child, go ahead and turn it down for like the next 10 seconds.
What are you going to do to the kid?
Who realizes that the Easter Bunny, like those Easter eggs out there,
You didn't even count to 10 before you bring this up.
it's not actually
Didn't even have time
Easter
to.
Bunny.
Tommy, turn your ears off.
Like that's kind of how I felt yesterday, where I was like, oh, yeah, they're going to approach this like it's a true rebuild year. And
See, I think I always knew that the
Right.
so-called animal that he's speaking of, because I don't want to trust people.
Yeah, it
who
wasn't
have
real.
Yeah, I knew all along. I saw my parents put it out the next morning.
Yeah, that was me. And I was that kid. And suddenly I realized what was happening. I was like, oh, well, that's less cool.
You got to sneak out of your room earlier, man.
That's not
least
nearly
Santa's
as
real.
interesting or fun. Like, my mom did that? What?
Damn, we're
Why?
ruining so many kids' lives right now.
And so the reason that I bring that up is because, like, I wanted to believe, I think, that they were going to approach this season as if there could really be something that's accomplished here. And I think I'm starting to come to grips with the fact that they're probably just going to sell. And, like, maybe that was always the plan. And when you start to view things through that prism, it makes a lot more sense what they've been doing. And, like, Dustin May's probably going to be on another roster on August the 4th. And
You're
Lars
really
Nootbaar's
depressing me over
probably
here,
going to be
man.
on another roster on August the 4th. And JoJo's probably going to be somewhere else on August the 4th. And they're just going to kind of keep going and plan for 28.
I want you to know the Cardinals didn't do this to me last night. You're doing it to me now.
You know,
though.
this line that I always yell at T-Bone actually applies here right now. Grow up, man.
I think I am, right before your eyes. I think I'm having my moment
You're
of growing
becoming
up.
a big boy right now, man. I'm proud of you.
My son has turned 3, and now he's going pee-pee on the potty, and I'm realizing.
Just wait till you go, man.
It's my turn to
Go pee-pee on the potty.
Yeah.
There you go, man. I'm
Like,
proud of you. T-Bone, have you gone pee-pee on the potty?
I need
yet?
to eat my vegetables, and today I'm doing
Well,
it.
T-Bone's
I
out on
haven't
that.
gotten to my vegetables.
T-Bone ain't doing that.
I didn't have that moment last night.
Oh, no?
I don't.
Watching Jared Schuster didn't do that to you, eh?
No,
you liked that?
When I saw them last night,
That was
the way
fun?
I saw them operate game 1, I went, my God, they're not going to do anything in this doubleheader today. I think that moment that you're talking about for me will be the deadline. And the reason I say that is I don't think they're going anywhere in the standings, man. And what I mean by that is they may fall out of the playoff picture. They're going to technically be in this race by the time we get to the deadline. And that's when Chaim pulls the cord and kills the team. It will be when I say, wow, okay, that one stings. Because I'm with you, right? I believe if you're in a playoff spot, even if you say at the beginning of the year it is a rebuild year, you should be trying to make the playoffs in that spot because the baseball gods are not going to look kindly upon you. I viewed yesterday, and I think this is my read on the fan base so far from today has been, yeah, you know what? Your pitching just got in a bad spot. Some of that is their own doing. I agree with that. I mean, what you said about Mott's potentially being used for Friday's game when they won 17-1 and Stanek threw an inning. I think this was just one of those where you look at it and go, every team has a stretch where they just don't have pitching, and it goes sideways. And that's the way I viewed yesterday. Like, I'm a little upset they didn't decide to go Gastelum over Schuster, but look, I get it to an extent. I just view it as that was one of those, this is one of those 3 games, 4 games where this is going to happen in a baseball season. My moment's going to be the deadline if they sell, especially since they should be a buyer.
Bunnies go real.
Hey.
Oh, sorry. No, it is. It is. I thought the volume was still turned down. T-Bone still thinks it's real,
For
though.
10 seconds, man. We're well beyond that now.
We already said it. We've gone past that. T-Bone's, I think I was already there.
Yeah.
I think I was there at the start of the season.
I think that's fair, but here would be and this is what I would say to Heim if I saw him.
Ooh.
Why should I watch the beginning of the season then if we're just going to say at the very beginning, we're rebuilding, which means we're selling? Even if you're 10 games above 500 and you still decide to sell. Like, what's the point of watching the first 3 months of a baseball season? What the hell's the point of playing the first 3 months of a baseball season?
I think in their mind, they would tell you that this was always going to be the plan, regardless of what our team did.
This is the part that really, this is where it bothers me more, is I think the fans are okay with selling at the deadline if they're in a playoff spot. And I can't believe we've gotten here where there was all the criticism of, well, they shouldn't be, they should go into sell mode, and then they finally have a good team, and they're like, okay, we're going to stick with sell mode.
I mean, we got this over on YouTube, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL, DJ Patty Cakes. These two really wanted a rebuild for years now. You have it, and now you're disappointed. They accomplished a lot this year, just not the playoffs. If playoffs were the only way that it was going to be a successful year, that's sad. I don't view it that way. Like, this can be a very successful year. Honestly, if they simply get the same production the rest of the way out of their top 4 in their lineup as they have so far this year, that is a successful year because you found your core. And that's it. Like, that was what the 2026 campaign was really about, was figuring that out.
And you got answers on guys that aren't a part of it. You got answers in Nolan Gorman. You know now. I think you might have an answer on Victor Scott. He might not be the center fielder of the future for you. Like, to me, that was the goal all along.
No doubt. You needed answers. But just to respond to that, though, I did not want to go into a rebuild. And I think you guys know that. I have said all along, be careful what you wish for when it comes to a rebuild. Cardinals have been incredibly fortunate this year. This is not what your typical rebuild looks like. And that's why I've been saying I would not necessarily sell at the deadline. Because for most rebuilds, you should be today like where the Rockies are, or where some of the worst teams in Major League Baseball are, where they don't even have assets to give to other teams. That's what a rebuild truly looks like. What the Cardinals are in right now is some kind of a hybrid.
It's a refresh.
You can call it whatever you want to, but like, they're in playoff contention right now. In fact, I think as of today, they're still in a playoff spot, right? Yeah. Oh, no. As of today, they've fallen 2 games back because of yesterday.
Marlins.
So you're right there. That is very different than a traditional rebuild where you have nothing and you start from the ground up. Right now, you've got 4 legit players that you can build around and a rotation that's at least okay. So, yeah, it's a different spot to me than a typical rebuild.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I was fine with calling it whatever it was at the beginning of the year. Like, I mean, you can go back and watch the old Rebel reports or the old BK and Ferrario episodes from the start of the season. I was very adamant this team was going to suck because I didn't think they were going to have an offense because I didn't believe in Jordan Walker at the beginning of the year. Not that I didn't believe in J.J. Weatherholt, but I thought, hey, it's a rookie. We see this all the time where guys start their big league career and they're like barely above league average or they're below league average. The example I always point to is Bobby Witt, right? That guy's a superstar. Mm-hmm. That guy was like 1% above league average in his rookie because it's hard to adjust to major league pitching. The gap between AAA and the majors has never been bigger. And I looked at the rotation. It's been about what I thought it'd be. I thought they had better depth in the organization as a whole, but it was better depth by just defining it as fine. But once you start playing the games and I start to realize, okay, this is not what I was expecting. I think Heim would tell you if he was on Truth Serum, this is not what they were expecting because I think they thought kind of what I was thinking, which is probably about 90-loss team, maybe 85 losses until we sell at the deadline, and then we had a couple more when we sell. We're probably about a 90-loss team. And the offense is just taken that step. And these exiting of rebuilds, this idea you always have a plan, it always gets here sooner than you think. Look at Baltimore. They're the example of this where they thought, oh, we're not there yet. Offensive pieces have emerged. We're going to be able to do this for like 5 years. They had like a 2-year window and it's closed already. And now they're looking at themselves going, okay, what are we going to do? And that's my fear is this is the best of what this core could be. The hope is that's not the case. But what
well,
if
then
it
you need
is?
to find a new core. If this is the best you're going to be, you weren't winning a World Series this year. Now you got to go find a new core. I think they would look at it and say, this isn't going to be the best.
That's just how you get into a rebuild upon a rebuild upon a rebuild.
But if this was the best it's going to be, you weren't ever going to win the World Series this year.
But this is the best the offense core can be.
Yeah, I'm not saying they
then you
suddenly
need a new
are the worst
core.
offense in
What do you
baseball.
mean?
Like if Jordan Walker is not this next year, well, then it was never going to work. You were a one-hit wonder where you were trying to win, and you're going to be rebuilding next year.
What would you consider, like, I'll just use the Blue Jays as an example. The Blue Jays last year was probably the best it's going to get, right? We agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, this year, if you just look up and down their lineup, it's completely different than what it was a year ago. And that really starts and finishes with Vlad Guerrero Jr., who this year has a 690 OPS. Let me say that again. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has a 690 OPS. That is despite the fact that he's hitting 265. He's getting on base 35% of the time. It's the slug that has disappeared for them. And this is coming off of back-to-back seasons where he was a 940 OPS and then an 850 OPS. He was an all-star and an MVP candidate over the last 2 years. And now suddenly things have changed for him. He's not a bad player. He's a really good player. I would anticipate that he probably rebounds in some way next year. But I don't think most Blue Jays fans thought last year when he was 26 years old, that's the best that he's going to potentially be. And next year, it's going to be a steep decline. It happens sometimes. Baseball happens to players. It happened the year after the World Series appearance to Corbin Carroll, where baseball adjusted to him, and it took like 3 months for him to adjust back to Major League Baseball. That very well could happen to Walker next year. And the reason that I bring this up, Alex, is because that doesn't mean he's not part of your core. But it could mean that this was the year that it clicked for all of those guys, and they were healthy at the same time, and they were still in their primes together, and they were still contractually at a place where you could have them all here together. And then if that changes, any one of those variables or performance changes for any of them, yeah, that's a big factor that they're going to have to live with in future seasons. And all of those are variables that right now you're not contending with. So that's why I would view this as punting on it with this core group in place, I think would be a mistake.
They were never going to go buy at the deadline to the point that I think people would have been happy. I think we were talking about them doing minor moves.
But I think that's okay.
I mean,
I don't think people would have been okay with that.
Here would be my question, and I think you're probably right, because I get the sense that's where the fan base is at.
I think people would have been upset if it's just a bullpen arm that they brought in.
I pushed back. Someone had texted me over the weekend at 8 a.m. First off, I'm not getting up to 11, so let's calm down at the 8:30 a.m.
after cotting with the boys at that time.
He said, well, then you shouldn't be buying unless you're contending. So are we just going to operate on like 5 teams across the sport should be buyers and 25 should just feed them their players?
Exactly.
That doesn't make much sense. I agree that they shouldn't do anything major. When I say buy, I think that's what gets misconstrued, that people think I'm like selling Rynel Rodriguez to go out and get a starter that helps them. Guys, look at what they did in 2022. It's the example that we bring up. They gave up Harrison Bader for Jordan Montgomery. That'd be like moving on, like maybe Lars Nootbaar potentially this year, or honestly like a Leo Bernal, someone that I don't think fits into their plans long term with the catching situation. And anybody remember this guy named Moises, or no, it wasn't Moises Gomez? I don't even remember his name. The third baseman they moved in the deal to get Jose Quintana. It was a third baseman prospect, Malcolm Gomez, maybe I think was his name. And then they also gave up Oviedo Nunez. Thank you.
Moises Gomez is Lil Poppy, and don't you ever talk poorly about Lil Poppy.
I knew it would start with an M. But they moved on from a guy that you've never even seen in Pittsburgh because he was out of baseball within like 2 years.
And Oviedo, who didn't have a place here.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look at 2021 when they made the small additions. They moved on from John Gant, didn't have a place here. And then they moved on from Lane Thomas. Again, another piece that didn't have a place here. Those weren't major assets that they gave up, and they also weren't significant improvements to the roster, but it helped clear up just a dry spot on the roster, right? It filled a hole. And that's what you need to do by the time you get to October. Just fill some holes. You don't have to be the team that beats the Dodgers. The Brewers might take care of the Dodgers for you. You just want to give yourself a fighting chance by the time you get to October.
Yeah, and I think people hear that and they're like, oh, well, that's the old mindset. Yes, but the problem is the old mindset was they come into the season being one or two pieces short, and then they hope to have that piece added at the trade deadline, and then they fall short of adding that piece at the trade deadline. What this is quite different, in my opinion, is you can do what T-Bone just mentioned there and also in the offseason continue to build towards what's to come.
Exactly.
That's what the Blues, I think, tried to do in, was it 22? Maybe like that team was, maybe it was more recent than that.
You talking about the year with Verona?
No, it was,
the one where they brought in Foxa and Suter?
It was the Winnipeg Jets series where that team
2
comes
years ago.
together at the trade deadline, and they were playing really well at that point, and they gave themselves a fighting chance to get to the playoffs that year. That was the midst of a rebuild, and we all agreed there's value in these young guys getting that experience of playing meaningful hockey and playing playoff games together and finding out where you're at, finding out, like, I think that was part of why they decided to move on from Jordan Kyrou. It's because they saw him in a playoff series, and they were like, I don't know that this guy's a guy that when we are good again, we're going to be able to count on to play that physical brand of hockey. And you really only learn that once you get to the playoffs. I think the same thing can be true if you're playing meaningful baseball down the stretch. And you have a chance to do that, and punting on it, I think, would be a mistake. We've gone way over. Coming up next, speaking of the Blues, I do want to talk about them. If you could sign any of their pending RFAs to an extension, which one would you choose this offseason? We'll get into that coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yesterday, the Cardinals fell in both games of their doubleheader to the Milwaukee Brewers. Game 4 of the 5-game set is tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
In 10 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show.
10 minutes, it's going to be noon, man.
Alex, if you could sign one of the pending restricted free agents for the Blues to an extension this offseason, and by that, I'm talking about Jimmy Snuggerud, Jake Neighbors, Logan Mailloux, Joel Hofer. Those are the 4 options. If you could sign any of them to a extension early, who would you choose?
Dude, this is tough. When I saw on the notes that we were going with this, because I have gone back and forth with Hofer and Snuggerud probably since last night when you sent the notes. I think I've settled on Hofer, and it's only because that's the position you have to make sure is locked up long term. And I don't know if it's ever going to price itself out, but I also know how desperate teams can be for goaltenders. And we haven't seen an offer sheet for a goaltender. I don't know if we'll ever see an offer sheet for a goaltender. But if Hofer goes on some type of tear this season and puts up absurd numbers, I mean, you could see a higher amount for that guy. And he could view it also as, look, I go little and then get more money later on. With Jimmy Snuggerud, I'd like to play it out because I want to see what he looks like with Thomas for a full season. But I also view this as I'm going to pay him no matter the price because he's just going to be the goal scorer. I think I would lock up Hofer, but I can totally hear the argument for Jimmy Snuggerud.
Yeah, for me, it'd be Snuggerud because I look at that, and we'll see if he gets there. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy that if he scores, let's just say 30 goals, right? Let's not even go the high mark of 40, which we've talked about in the past. He scores 30 goals and you can't seem to get things figured out with him. I could see a team coming in and offer sheeting him and saying, man, we could really use a goal scorer. Let's overpay for him and put the Blues in a bind. I don't see that for like a Logan Mailloux. I don't see that for a Joel Hofer just because I've never even gotten the sense that the league even values goaltending. So I just can't imagine anybody coming in and blowing Hofer's socks off and signing him to an offer sheet that you wouldn't be willing to match. Snuggerud's one that I can see that occurring to.
There are 35 different forwards that are making more than $8.5 million per year on their current contracts. There are 2 goalies making more than $8.5 million per year on their current contract. There's so little upside to a Joel Hofer extension that I wouldn't do it right now. I just don't see the need to do so. Like, if Joel Hofer is unbelievable, one of the top 5 goalies in the league this year, what do you think he gets, Alex, in his contract? If they decide to go long-term with him and lock him up through his prime.
I'd say unbelievable. He's in the Vezina conversation.
Like 9.5?
Yeah, I'd probably go like
Vasilevsky.
Yeah,
range?
I'd probably
like
say 9.5.
And if he's just like good, he's kind of similar to what he was last year. What do you think he's making?
7.5.
Yeah, somewhere between 7 and 8.
I think I looked early in the offseason. I think that'd be like the percentage that Binnington's cap numbers at is like 7.5.
So let's call it 7.5 or 8. They're in that range. The gap between the two is about $1.5 million per year. Now let's go with the Jimmy Snuggerud side of things, right? If Jimmy Snuggerud has a season kind of similar to what he did a year ago, what do you think he gets, Alex? Like 8?
Yeah,
7.5?
probably like 7. Probably like 7.
If Jimmy Snuggerud goes out there and has the forward equivalent of what we were just talking about with Joel Hofer, where he's unbelievable, he's like, he takes that huge step, 35 to 40 goals, and we're talking about a point per game player.
Probably 11 to 13 mil.
So you're talking about a gap of about $4 to $5 million for Jimmy Snuggerud in terms of the ceiling versus the most likely expected outcome. That is such a wide gap that I would prioritize getting Snuggerud done first. Now, it's also why if you're Snuggerud, you probably wait. Yeah. Or you at least hope to wait until the end of next year because you've got some upside with your potential contract negotiations. So I understand both sides as to why this would not get done right now, but he would be the one that I would be prioritizing, where if I could get one done, it to me is very clearly Snuggie as the number one. And I think I would even go like Neighbors as 2, Logan Mailloux as 3 and Joel Hofer as my 4th priority when it comes to getting a contract extension done this offseason.
Yeah, my top 2 priorities would be Hofer and Snuggerud. However you want to order them, I think I'd go Hofer over Snuggerud, but honestly, they're tied for first. I don't think Neighbors prices himself out, and I don't think Logan Mailloux prices himself out. And frankly, I don't think Mailloux's in even offer sheet territory. Neighbors maybe, but I don't think anybody's paying $18 million for a Jake Neighbors. My 2 priorities are the 2 pieces that I think my team has to be built around, and it's Hofer and Snuggerud.
And just, I'm not talking about for the fear of the offer sheet. I'm just talking about what you could save yourself money-wise. It's kind of the conversation we have about the Cardinals. This is the equivalent of arbitration in Major League Baseball, where there are certain guys that are more likely to be paid through arbitration than other guys. And to me, guys that could potentially really increase their money, I think it would go 1, Snuggie, 2, Neighbors, 3, Mailloux, 4, Hofer, just because of the way that goalies are paid. And the NFL, the equivalent would be running backs, where you don't see that market increase in an exponential way.
But if we're going down the path of Hofer has a great year, I mean, I do think he could get more money than what you're used to seeing because he's young and he's essentially going to be the number 1. Like,
But what's the comparison for that?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know, especially in the RFA status. Like, and I'm not worried about the offer sheets either, but it's just so rare that a goalie, I mean, I guess you could look at Linus Ullmark, but he was in a flat cap. That's the thing for goalies. They've been in the flat cap for so long that it's hard to really go off of where things are going now. And I haven't really looked at all of the goalies that are pending free agents or getting those contracts. I think Hofer might be the biggest name that's hitting that number. So he might be setting the precedent of goalies. I just don't know what it looks like. I look at Logan Mailloux, and Logan Mailloux, to me, even if he has a great year, isn't somebody that's going to get more than $4 or $5 million.
Oh, I disagree with that. I mean, look at what Simone Nemec just got.
Well, I understand that, but I don't think Mailloux's going to be used like a Logan or a Simone Nemec to where you're seeing those offensive numbers come up. Like, I think you have to be used in a situation where teams say that guy, like, look at what Owen Zellweger got for an RFA. Like, that to me is a little bit more in line of what a Logan Mailloux could do. Neighbors is the one that can go one of 2 ways. Power forwards are just so weird. I could see that getting 6 or 7. I could see it going 9 or 10. And that's the part. And I think Neighbors is one of those guys that if you hit a certain number, you have to really ask yourself, is he worth this? Because that's a lot of money to pay a power forward that really has a few skill sets versus a Jimmy Snuggerud who can do so much. So I think Neighbors and Mailloux would be 3 and 4 on that list, and Hofer and Snuggerud jockey it out at 1 and 2 for me.
He's Alex Esteban on BK. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers coming up next. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 314. Guys, do you like talking more about when the Cardinals are playing and it's the Blues off season, or when the Blues are playing and it is the Cardinals off season? For me, it's the latter, when the Blues are playing and it's the Cardinals off season, because I think this is just my view on it. I think there is a greater interest, understanding, and appreciation for baseball players nationally than there is with NHL players. And the reason that I mention that is because that makes the baseball offseason more interesting in St. Louis, where there's more interest in the full landscape of Major League Baseball. Yeah. So that's why I would go with the Cardinals offseason, Blues in season, because there is such a huge interest in the Blues, the action on the field.
Yeah, I love the Blues offseason because there's so many hypotheticals, and the draft into the free agency is fun. But I like breaking down games when it comes to the Blues, and I like watching the development of certain players and seeing the minor league. So I think my preference would be Blues in season, Cardinals off season.
Boy, it's interesting because I'm the other way. I would say Cardinals in season, Blues off season.
Well, you're like I am with the Blues in season. You like breaking down every single Cardinals game ins and outs.
Because I love just the ins and outs of baseball, like the song and dance. I mean, like what we've been talking about today of the pitching crisis that they are in the midst of. That only happens right now for like 4 days, and then we'll be on to something else, roster decisions, in-game decisions. And then with the offseason for hockey, yes, it's only like a pop gun offseason where there's like a week that matters, but it's a hell of a week. Meanwhile, the baseball offseason, oh my God, could we use a deadline to get some stuff done?
From BK's Ass Sweat. Guys, if Burley's numbers against lefties are still this bad by the end of the year, do you think that it would be time for the organization to view him as a platoon bat long term? I think that's viewed as a derogatory statement by most people, understandably so. I don't think it's as big of a problem as some people make it out to be. Yes, he's been terrible against lefties this season. Batting 181 against them, OPS of 435. It's a real problem, and I think lately we've seen them approach it as such. That being said, even if he is a quote-unquote platoon bat, as a left-handed player, that means you're playing more than 70% of the time. So it's not the end of the world. I don't even think it's that big of a deal, honestly. And you have him then coming off of the bench. So would they view him that way? Probably. Should they? Absolutely. I also think that's fine. And he's still going to get 500 at-bats over the course of the season.
Yeah, the question will be just who's going to platoon with him at first base. So, but if you find somebody that can do that, I don't think there's an issue with that.
And the answer very well might be Blaze Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way they've been approaching it here of late. I have no issue if he ends up becoming a platoon bat, especially because of how good he is against right-handed pitching. And I would also add this. I still have some hope he can figure it out against lefties. He was good against lefties last year. I mean, you look at his numbers last year, 271, 310, 398. That's playable against left-handed pitching. Is it great? No, it's not great. It's playable. So my hope is he can still find a way to somewhat figure it out.
From the 314, guys, do you think Jake Neighbors is the Blues' best trade asset?
No. I think if you were willing to trade him, Dalibor Dvorsky would be probably better because he's a center. I think Jiricek is probably a really good trade asset. I think Lindstein might even be better than Neighbors because he's a defenseman.
I think among the realistic possibilities, it's Jiricek 1, Jake Neighbors 2.
I don't even know how realistic.
I don't think either of those are realistic. I don't think they'd trade either of them.
I think Neighbors is realistic. That one I would be different from you, but I agree on your check.
I think Stenberg's more realistic to trade than Neighbors.
I agree, but I don't think he's as valuable.
I don't know how valuable Jake is.
I disagree on that. I think Jake Neighbors would have serious value in the NHL if the Blues decided to move him.
Don't know how teams view that. I really don't.
314-399-9646. I thought T-Bone had something more.
No, you're fine.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line.
Junk mail is disappointing.
To get involved in the show. Coming up next, everything makes a lot more sense for the Cardinals if their plan is to sell at the deadline. And is there any fix for this bullpen long term? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Everything makes a lot more sense for the Cardinals if you view it through the prism of, they're a seller at the deadline. And that's their plan. That's the way that they're operating. If I had told you yesterday, Alex, hey, the plan for the Cardinals is more or less to concede these 2 games against the Brewers. And they're going to set themselves up to get the extra rest from McGreevy. They're going to get the extra rest for Pulisic. They're going to keep some of their starters down at AAA because they're making sure they're stretched out, ready to go for the post-trade deadline push. They need Quinn Matthews to be ready to go and fully geared up for August the 4th when he becomes a 5th member of this rotation. They need Bryson Motts to continue to be stretched out because he and Hunter Dobbins are going to be the guys that backfill in this rotation starting on August the 4th. Or they want Bryson Motts to work on a few of his pitches at the AAA level before he replaces, Justin Brule or Jojo Romero in the bullpen on August the 4th. That starts to make a lot more sense to me. And it's disappointing to me that that's the way they're approaching things. But at least logically speaking, I can start to understand the plan more if I view it with that as the starting point and this being just something that gets you to that end.
It's not an easy thing to accept and look at. I mean, I totally understand what we had talked about earlier in the show. Like, I don't like it either because I don't think it's good to miss opportunities to give your young players an opportunity to play in the postseason. But if you just go down the path of, like, this was the plan all along, and I think I saw Bernie Miklasz tweet this out yesterday, like, it is pretty evident with the decisions in this Brewers series. And honestly, you could go back to the Royals series when their bullpen was tarnished and there really weren't moves to try and address it. It was just a matter of we'll try and adapt to it so that we can manage around it. Winning is pretty far down on the to-do list for the Cardinals in terms of right now. Like,
God, I hate that. You're right.
I think I'm not saying they're trying to lose actively every game. Like, Ollie is going to try and win every night. He is competitive, and that's why he is the manager for the Cardinals. I think Heim's task is more making sure our entire pitching pipeline is developed enough so that post-trade deadline going into next year, we have competition for rotation pieces, getting answers on all of these roster players that we have. Maybe they finally start trimming some of the fat off the 40-man in terms of, look, we know now on Nolan Gorman, it's not going to work. Maybe we find out with Cesar Prieto and Joel Pozo and Victor Scott. I think those were the tasks all along this season, and they fell into, holy crap, we're winning baseball games, but it was still this is the path we're going down. We will still try and win, but this is the direction we are going to make sure we want to try and catch the Brewers. To catch the Brewers, I think you have to strengthen everything in your organization.
So out of curiosity, let's say they pivot and they decide, we are going to try to win. And
hell yeah.
And that's going to be the thing that we're trying to accomplish here at the major league level. We're going to prioritize that more than we were in the scenario that we just presented, which I don't enjoy. Is there a fix for the pen? Because I think they're probably going to activate Gastelum today. They'll call him up at some point. They'll probably DFA Shuster. Thanks for your service. Appreciate you.
Brule should be next.
He's been really good.
As much as I hate Brule, he's got pretty good numbers of late. It's hard to argue.
Dude, Justin Brule
I hate watching him, but he's been good.
Send it to the sun, man.
Justin Brule's last 15 appearances has a 1.3 ERA. He's gone 20 innings over that stretch, and his ERA on the season is now 3.5. He has a better ERA and a better fielding independent pitching on the season than Jojo Romero.
Ooh.
What you heard is a trade asset.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But in all seriousness, that guy has been so good lately that you should not be looking to get rid of him. He's been one of the best pieces of this bullpen. Is there anything else that you could do, though, to continue to strengthen it beyond just the Gastelum move, which I think is a given now?
I don't think so. I think this is where you're at right now, unless you're willing to convert starters into bullpen arms, and I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that.
That's what I was going to say.
You got nothing in your system other than starters.
Because I think it's just Gastelum is the one true reliever that you can call up from AAA and see if he can help you, unless there's another name I'm forgetting, but I think he's really the only one. And then it's the classic, hey, the guys did his thing like Quinn Matthews or Bryson Motts. hey, these lefties have done their job at getting enough innings as building up as starters. Let's get them big league experience, and the only way to do that is to bring them in as kind of, I don't know if it has to be high leverage, but multi-inning relievers, right? Come in and can you give us 2 innings of work, Motts or Matthews? I think that would be the other way you do it. The problem is you're not going to do that before the deadline. So the only answer you could get as a positive before the deadline, if you change the mindset of, hey, we're going to kind of try and win now, would be Gastelum. You still would have to buy a reliever at the deadline, in my opinion, even if you got positive returns out of Gastelum.
I think converting Matthew Liberatore to a bullpen arm would potentially help them, but that hurts your rotation for the right now. So that may be a next year thing, but we've talked about that. I don't think that's going to happen for how much you're paying him.
Somebody to keep an eye on. I think this guy was among their top pitchers in the system over the last month. Hansel Rincon has been really good lately at the AAA level. He is not somebody that I've really spent a whole lot of time getting to know, so I'm going to have to do more looking into his profile overall. But over the last 28 days, he's appeared in 8 games. He's giving them length at the minor league level. 3 innings, 2 innings, a few other appearances where he's going multiples as well. Previously was a starter in the minor league system, but over the last month, opposing hitters are batting 135 against him, and they have a 475 OPS. He does not have a walk issue. He has 20 strikeouts over this stretch as well. So he's getting swing and miss. He's getting strikeouts. He does not have a whole lot of walks, which has been the problem lately for Bryson Motts. I don't know what their internal numbers would say about Rincon. And maybe they just say like, hey, this guy is not very good. It won't translate to the major league level. That's possible. But he's 24 years old. He's at the highest level now down at AAA. He's been there for the entirety of this season, basically. And he can give them multiple innings. That's somebody that I wonder if they could potentially give him a look soon at the major league level as well. And he's Rule 5 eligible after the season. So if they want to keep him here, they have to make a decision on him in the offseason anyways. So he is somebody that will eventually have to be added to the 40-man. I think that's another name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I don't mind if you want to try it, because I think now is the time you try these kind of things just to see if you get answers, especially if you're willing to have an open-mindedness to be in a potential buyer at the deadline. Because I think if you're not going to be a buyer, you can just wait on this till post-deadline, right? When you try and trade a Stanek, a Brule, a JoJo Romero, and then you can make these moves, and you don't have to DFA anybody. But if you were saying, like you did in the premise of this question of, let's say Hein woke up today, he's happy, had his morning coffee, and is thinking, let's try and win now, I would be trying these moves now, and I would be trimming some of the fat off the 40-man to see if you get answers, right? I would be willing to move on from Prieto. I'd be willing to move on from Pozo, put these guys on the 40-man. You put Gastelum in the Shuster spot, which is a 40-man spot. And now, by the way, it wouldn't be for 15 days because you'd potentially be optioning some guys down. Talking about some flexibility now on the 40-man roster, where now they've basically got, one reliever that they can kind of fluctuate up and down because they've got 3 or 4 spots that are kind of clogged with injured pitchers, and Tink Hintz, who's kind of clogging a roster spot right now. So I would be here for it. I don't expect them to be making those kinds of moves, though.
I don't think so either. I think that it's the kind of thing that I would consider, though. Like, let's say Gordon Graceffo, for example. Just use him as the piece here. You could just option him down to AAA. Like today, you could make 2 roster moves. You could DFA Jared Shuster. You open up that 40-man roster spot. That's how you end up getting Gastelum here. That one, again, I feel like is going to happen at some point between now and like 3 o'clock. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. And then if you added to that, we're going to call up Hansel Rincon, and he is going to take the spot of Graceffo on the 26-man. And in order to make that work, on the 40-man, we are DFAing Joel Pozo. Now you have added an extra spot that you can get guys up and down. You've added another pitcher to that 40-man roster where you can utilize him. And you have guys on different timelines now in terms of when they're coming up, when they're going down, what exactly they're trying to work on, all these different things. Because now you would still have down at the AAA level Ryan Fernandez working on things too. And he becomes the next guy that comes back up to the major league level. So I think it would be an interesting piece to add to the mix because now you have another player in your bullpen that can go multiple innings for you. And so on any given day, he could give you 2 or 3, which allows you to, for that day, between now and the end of the first half of the season, for that day, he could potentially eat some innings, and you avoid some of these other guys that you don't want to go to, especially if you're down by 3 or 4 runs in that
He
game.
takes the Rajic rule. I mean, I think that's what they envisioned for Rajic, and I think that's what they were kind of doing. I mean, his last appearance in that Cubs series was inning in 2/3 or inning in a third, and that was at a 17-1 game. And then the reason they brought Stanek in, I think, was he just came back from paternity, so they just wanted him to get an inning of work. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the new phase of baseball that we're kind of in is those underbelly bullpen arms have to go like 2 or 3 innings, because I think the long man is dead. It's just going to be replaced with multiple guys that can go 2 or 3 innings, and then you can option them down if you had a good 40-man, option them down and bring up the next guy.
Yeah, I think Rincon is a guy that I would keep an eye on. I don't think they're going to do it, but that's maybe the next player after Gastelum that's worthy of a call-up. All right, coming up here in about 15 minutes on BK and Ferrario, the former players, not a fan of what took place with Christian Pulisic in this year's World Cup. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Jeff Marek had an interesting report yesterday, Alex. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll talk about the former players who, not exactly a big fan of Christian Pulisic, it seems like.
I thought he was the face of the team.
He is, and they don't seem to think that that's a good idea.
Trouble in Paradise Part 2.
We'll get into that in 10 minutes. But, Alex, yesterday, Jeff Marek had an interesting report. We love Jeff Marek around here on BK and Ferrario. I think he's one of the best in the business. He had the report on Jason Robertson. Double down on that here on our show. He also yesterday said on his show, maybe a month and a half ago, someone in Sweden told me, look, all the talk here is that Leo Carlsson will be getting an offer sheet. People in Sweden believed that that offer sheet would come from the Blues. It wouldn't surprise Jeff Marek if one of the other teams in on him was Seattle.
People in Sweden, because they just know St. Louis is Team Sweden these days.
Yeah, so people in Sweden believed that Leo Carlsson was potentially going to get an offer sheet from the Blues. Now, he did get that offer sheet. It just wasn't from St. Louis. It was from Philadelphia. That doesn't mean that they weren't interested. That just means he signed an offer sheet with the Flyers specifically, and they went to a crazy, if interesting, $18 million per year on that contract.
Yeah.
Alex, what would you have thought if they did go about this? And they decided, you know what, we love Leo Carlsson, and we've explored the Mason McTavish thing. We thought about going down and seeing if Elias Pettersson can change things up here in St. Louis, but instead we're going to get this young 23-year-old center, former top 5 overall selection, and Leo Carlsson. We're going to give up 4 first-round draft picks in the process, and we're going to sign him, let's say it's not 18, it's $15 million per year for the St. Louis Blues, because apparently he was at like 12 to 12 and a half with Verbeek and the Ducks. How would you have felt about that if that was their plan this offseason? It obviously wasn't. This is a different hypothetical world.
15 is kind of like that borderline puke point for me. I think I would be a little bit more excited about it at 15, but still concerned of what that does to your overall roster makeup, because you're adding an extra $8 million on top of what Mason McTavish is making, and McTavish obviously wouldn't be here, so you'd be bringing in the 15. 15, though, I think is a little bit more doable, because as centers, they always are overpaid, and I do think Leo Carlsson is, if not a top center, he's going to be, no doubt about it, a second-line center for the majority of his career, but he does have that top-line potential. And at $15 million, I don't care about the 4 first-round picks. If you're offer sheeting somebody that you think is a part of your future, go get them now versus 4 first-round picks, because the hope is that in 2 years, those first-round picks are 25 to 32. So it's more about the $15 million. Anything above 15, I think I would have been a little bit more skeptical on. I said 18, there was no chance I wouldn't be happy with it. 15 is just a little bit more doable for me, so I think I'd celebrate that.
I would have been thrilled. It would have also served as like a fresh start for the Blues, because it's such a different build than what they have classically done. That doesn't mean what they've done has been wrong or not successful. It clearly has been. It worked for basically a decade under Doug Armstrong, but it's such a different way to build, and I think it would have been an interesting way to go about it, especially with the contracts that they currently have on the books, where they have a lot of guys that are on hugely valuable deals for them.
Well, and I was going to say, too, like the current build kind of got stuck in the mud a little bit, right? I mean, they weren't really going on the rise. They had the moment where in the second half 2 years ago, they got hot and made the playoffs. And then last year, they kind of regressed back down to earth. Felt like they were kind of stuck. So though 4 first-round picks does worry me a little bit, because I just don't know what to expect from what this build is going to be, I would have taken the risk on Carlsson, because the one goal of the offseason was you've got to upgrade the center position, right? And if you struck out on McTavish, you struck out on Pettersson, let's say Wright doesn't get dealt, like at some point you have to get to a conclusion of, all right, why not just take the big swing, right? Like, well, screw it. We'll give up 4 first-round picks. We think this guy not just gives us an answer at the number 2 center, but if for whatever reason Robert Thomas doesn't have bounce back year, maybe he is our number 1 centerman and Thomas is the number 2, and it takes less pressure off of him.
It's weird to say this. I think the Blues are in a better position now, though, without a $15 million contract than what they'd be if they had Carlsson. Now, you're banking on upside with Mason McTavish, but I'll go down the path of, like, let's say Mason McTavish lives up to that second-line center potential that you'd be bringing in a Leo Carlsson for. If that's the case, you've got that for $7 million in the next 6 seasons. You're paying $15 million for a 1 and a 2 versus $15 million for a 1. You are set up to go after whatever that missing piece is that you discover after the season. So let's say this season, Snuggerud doesn't turn into the 40-goal scorer. He's probably just like 25 to 30 goals and 60 to 70 points. And you're still looking for that guy that can do what Jason Robertson does at $40 million or 40 goals a season.
Yeah.
You're in a better position to go offer sheet that guy or trade the assets that you've put into your system to go get that piece to add a $13-14 million goal scorer with two guys that are in the center position. Whereas if you had the $15 million center, I think you'd be looking for guys that can score goals that you're hoping the center can bring out the best in them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, because you're right. Like, if you're able to get it right with Mason McTavish and he does become a legit number 2 center, the value of him at $7 million plus those 4 first-round picks is greater than the value of Leo Carlsson at $15 million probably. But if he doesn't become that, if he, in terms of Mason McTavish, is just what he's been so far in his career, you're still going to be looking for that number 2 center, and now you're back to where you started. Now, McTavish, and even in that scenario, is a good player at $7 million, and he can play on the wing for you potentially long-term, and there's no harm, no foul there. But you go back to where you were, and this gets us to the next conversation that I wanted to have here, Alex. There was a piece over in Sportsnet yesterday on restricted free agents, not only this offseason, but next, and that's where I got the idea of the Jimmy Snuggerud thing. But for next offseason, they brought up, okay, these are the following players that could potentially be in line for another offer
Every
sheet.
offseason, we're an offer sheet watch.
Macklin Celebrini.
Hell yes, give them everything.
Is an RFA next year.
I think Mike Greer's going to say we'll match anything that anybody does.
They said an 8-year deal at about $19 million per season.
That's not
would
enough.
Come in at a total of $152 million. And honestly, that might be a bargain.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a bargain. And also, I don't think that happens. San Jose would match it.
Other players that were mentioned here, because I agreed, like San Jose should just extend him for whatever he wants.
They will match whatever you put in front of Macklin Celebrini.
Matvei Mishkov is one of the players that's an RFA next year. Kirill Marchenko, who this offseason was the talk of a lot of potential trade speculation. 3 different goalies are on this list, including Jesper Wallstedt in Minnesota, Joel Hofer here in St. Louis, and I'm not even going to pretend to be able to pronounce
Let's hear it.
San Jose, Yaroslav Oskarov.
Nailed it, man. Come on.
Crushed it.
Russian names are easier than Finnish names. I'll give that to you.
Those are the 3 goalies.
You're going to see a goalie
RFAs.
market. You're going to see a goalie market set because Wallstedt and Hofer are going to be the 2 guys that I think set the market of what the new goalies look like.
Can I give you a few others that I think are pretty interesting that they did not bring up?
I've already heard one that I love, so I'd like to hear what else you got.
Ivan Diminov.
He just signed a contract.
Oh, they've got him as an RFA
Yeah, he just signed a contract. His was like a 7-year deal that he just signed with Montreal.
All right, well, there you go. He's no longer an RFA starting next year.
I like the idea, though.
I like the way you're playing.
Other guys that are, according to Puckpedia,
I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
Restricted free agent status after next year. Will Smith from the San Jose Sharks.
Love his movies.
If they have to go the full like $18 to $20 million, and I would assume at this point they will have to, with Celebrini, eventually you have to think about what that means for some of these other guys, right?
Well, this is the problem when you're drafting in the top 3 consistently, because if they hit and they're all good, you're going to have to pay them.
It's a great problem to have.
Great
but it's a problem
to have.
Nonetheless.
Because the other guy that they're going to have to worry about, too, and I mean, he's a little bit further down the road, but they've got that Michael Misa as well, who's projected to be a top-line center for them, who will have to get paid. I think he's up in 2 years. So, yeah, I mean, Will Smith is... I don't think he's going to be in the same realm as Macklin Celebrini, but if he has a decent year, and I think he's more of a winger than a center.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, he plays center, but they use him as the winger with Macklin Celebrini because they have that Michael Misa who they drafted. Misa's got 2 more years, by the way, so a year after Celebrini.
Would you try it with Will Smith? Yeah. 60 points, 25 goals. Now, some of that is the Celebrini.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the Celebrini. It's kind of like what worries me about Will Smith. I don't know what it looks like away from Macklin Celebrini, but yeah, I mean, probably.
Matthew Schaefer?
Give it a shot. Oh, yeah, sure. Welcome to the Macklin Celebrini realm. 20 mil, we'll give it to him.
Is Mishkov somebody that's interesting to you?
Not as much as Kirill Marchenko.
Okay.
Michkov, I just don't know with him because it didn't work in Philadelphia with Rick Tocchet. You wonder if the guy's just not happy where he's at. If the Leo Carlsson deal goes through for Philly, everybody in that market is going to start asking to be paid. Zegras, Drysdale, Michkov, Martone. Maybe change of scenery helps him. It just worries me with wingers versus the centers because, like, man, if you're just a guy that's going through the motions, you're not providing offense, and I'm paying you a ton of money. What are you going to do? I like this Kirill Marchenko because if Werenski wants out, Marchenko's going to want out. And Marchenko's a guy that just scored 30 goals for Columbus. He's 26 years old when he's an RFA. And that dude is built like a brick-ish house. Like, he is 6'3", 200-something pounds, plays that way. He's a right winger that provides offense, that's big, that can skate well. He'd be the one that I would try an offer sheet. The thing with the offer sheet is they've got cap space. So, like, you'd have to probably go to the $18 million. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm doing that.
Or make a trade.
Or make a trade. And that's the part that if I'm the Blues, that's where I'm really looking at it, saying, like, when Columbus says no, because there was rumors that Montreal tried to trade for him and Columbus said no. At some point, they're going to have to trade him because he's not going to re-sign there. That would be the main guy that I would be targeting between now and next year.
Blues, as of now, are projected with $52 million in cap space for next offseason. That does not include any kind of a deal yet for Jake Neighbors, Jonathan Berggren, Jimmy Snuggerud, Logan Mailloux, or Joel Hofer. So keep that in mind. A lot of that will be eaten up by those players that I just mentioned.
$30 million is going to be eaten up with that.
But you will still have some money to potentially be able to play with next offseason. And you've got Suter coming off the books. You've got Dubé coming off the books, along with Brandon Carlo and Tyler Tucker with Jordan Binnington.
And everybody is locked up until 2031. So you've got 5 years of flexibility with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So next offseason, I do think we're going to be having some of these conversations again with them going big game hunting. Yeah. It could be a deadline conversation as well, but keep that in mind as you go through this offseason. Part of it is not just what they were potentially able to do for 26. By not doing some of the things that we talked about, it opens them up to those possibilities in future
Brady
years.
Tkachuk, Leo Carlson, Jason Robertson, they were in on a couple of the other conversations. Like, they're obviously looking for a big fish. Mason McTavish was filling the spot for them. I think you're going to be seeing them in conversations again next year to try and get some type of big player for their roster.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll dive into the jug drawer. But next, former players, not a fan of Christian Pulisic. We'll let you hear from some of them next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yesterday, the Cardinals fell both games to the Milwaukee Brewers in their doubleheader. Tonight, Game 4 of the 5-game set against Milwaukee. 6:45 first pitch. Michael McGreevy will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon heating and air conditioning dealer.
I have an irrational dislike for certain sports figures, Alex. Kyle Van Noy, just don't like him. Just don't like him.
Why?
I don't know.
There's something about their cover?
There's something about Kyle Van Noy I just don't like.
Something about his face?
I guess so, man. Major League Baseball, Schmaltz, don't like him.
Wow, that's understandable.
I don't like him. Now, whether you think that's fair or otherwise, that's totally cool.
Hey, man, Zach Wilson, I despise that individual, and I have the moment he was drafted.
Yeah. You've always said punchable face.
Punchable face.
Not going to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
See, agreed. Carson Beck, strong dislike for him.
Oh, God, yeah.
Christian Pulisic's on that list for me.
Yeah.
I just don't like him.
Was he on that list before this tournament, though?
Yeah.
Before you watched the documentary, was he on this list?
Yeah. Don't like the guy.
Okay.
There's just something about him, the way he carries himself. Not for me. Now, I'm that guy for a lot of people, too, to be fair.
To that, brother.
And maybe that's less irrational and just more of an earned thing.
First time they told me BK and Ferrario, I'm like, oh, God. Yeah, I guess.
But here we are.
This guy.
6 years later, still doing it together.
Still loving life.
This is longer than a lot of American marriages nowadays, man.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
It seems like I'm not the only one that dislikes Christian Pulisic, though. And I'm not just talking about fans. There are former big-time faces of the U.S. soccer programs here nationally that have voiced their opinions on the captain of the U.S. men's soccer team. Here's Carly Lloyd from the other night to start things out.
I felt like they lost the game before they even stepped out onto the pitch. And I'm not sure why, and I don't know the reasons, but just from the beginning, just chasing, tentative, scared, just not confident on the ball. And I think big-time players, you wanted some of those big-time players to step up in big moments. And I got to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with Christian Pulisic. Whether he wants to be the star of this team or not, we didn't see enough from him in this particular game and really the whole World Cup.
I loved her tweet yesterday. You rest when your playing career is over, period.
And the reason that she brought that up, for anybody that missed it, is Christian Pulisic after the game in his post-game interview. This is directly after they had lost that game to Belgium. Said, when asked about his injury, hey, how you feeling? He said, oh, well, now I get to go get the rest. That'll be good. I'll be fine long term. And it's like, man, the response to that, even if it's not true, is just say, man, I've never felt worse about what just took place on the pitch, to use the terminology that they want you to.
Yeah, because you always do that.
I can't believe that I had to take myself out of what was the biggest game of my career. That is something that I'm never going to forget, and I'm going to make sure this offseason to train like crazy to make sure it never happens again in the future. Boom, there you go. You said the thing that everybody wants to hear. Instead, though, he said, I'm ready for some rest, which has been basically his theme of the last calendar year.
It looked like it on the pitch, too.
And he avoided the Gold Cup to rest up for this past season, which was an atrocity for him both in the club and country. But Carly Lloyd wasn't alone, Alex, on the Fox broadcast talking about that. There are also some former U.S. men's national team players that over the last couple of days have voiced their displeasure with the way that Pulisic handled things. Here's Landon Donovan.
In 2006, I had a really bad World Cup, and I came home and I got really criticized badly for the first time in my career. And it really shattered, like it really broke me. And I was depressed for a few weeks, and I really struggled and suffered. I don't know Christian super well. I don't know his makeup in that way. I would imagine this would be crushing for him. But the facts are the facts. 3 of his last 7 World Cup games, he's left injured. Now, you can call it coincidence, you can call it bad luck, whatever. That's the reality. I think he only played about half the minutes in the tournament, and we have to go back to last summer. Took the time off from the Gold Cup so that he would be ready for this season, and he would be fit and healthy and firing on all cylinders. And the reality is he's scored 1 goal since December. He's not played well for the national team, not played well for Milan. Outside of that first 45 minutes against Australia, I thought he was excellent. I was waiting for a moment from him, something special, something spectacular, and it just didn't happen.
3 of the last 7 World Cup, taking yourself out or being injured and having to exit the game is not a good look. And not a good look at all.
Dude, Landon Donovan, T-Bone knows this. That guy doesn't say a whole lot when it comes to biting criticism. That is about as takey, quote unquote, as you're going to hear Landon Donovan. And he couches it in a good way. I think he couched it properly by saying, listen, I don't know the guy, but here are the facts. Missed 3 out of the last 7, has not played well, did not have a moment, and it sure didn't seem as though this crushed him the way that you would expect it to. Like that.
Yeah.
Biting criticism from Landon Donovan. I think Tim Howard, though, was the one that pulled the fewest punches. Here is the former U.S. men's national team goalie.
To whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
He is the face of this team. He is undoubtedly its best player. And when that happens, you will receive all of the money and all of the acclaim, and you'll receive all of the blame. That's how it works. There were times where I was that player for certain teams. You've been that player for certain teams. There were plenty of teams I was on that I wasn't that player. I hope for his sake he isn't on social media for the foreseeable future. He deserves a rest. He can go on holiday. And yeah, there's a dark side. There's a dark side to fame and celebrity. What I would say about him is, you know, when someone tells you or shows you who they are, you believe them. I think he's a nice footballer. I do. I think he's a very nice footballer. Still think he's the best player on the team. Outside of that, you'd have to ask him very direct questions, to which I could give you very direct answers, but ultimately, he's a nice footballer.
God, love it.
Sometimes what goes unsaid is really the most interesting part of something. Tim Howard saying, yeah, nice footballer. You ask me direct questions, I'll give you direct answers. But nice footballer. He's telling you, I don't think the guy's tough. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I don't think he's tough. And I think that, Alex, man, think about some of the conversations you've had with people around sports. The biggest criticism that players hate. I mean, they hate. And it's not just players, it's coaches, it's organizations that you will get the most pushback against is when you question somebody's toughness.
Yep.
And for former players to pretty clearly be questioning the toughness of Christian Pulisic. And they're not alone. This is other players, but those are the guys that are like Landon Donovan and Tim Howard were faces of U.S. soccer for the better part of the last 20 years. And for them to come out, having been in that situation that Christian Pulisic is in right now, and for them to say it, I think tells you everything you need to know about who this guy is, what he's all about, and what is lacking from him within the U.S. men's program right now.
The 2 things you can't question that you do get like pushback and frankly angry individuals is toughness and effort. It's why you always hear us when we're talking about guys. It's like, well, I don't think there's lack of effort, but you don't know. With Pulisic, you heard him mention the toughness, and I think effort was coming into question as well in that match at times because you did not notice him, and when you did notice him, they were all bad situations. And I loved what Tim said at the front of it. Like, if you want to be the face of it, you're going to have to take the brunt of everything that comes with it. And, like, this dude is on every single commercial for the U.S. men's national team. It's on McDonald's cups everywhere you go. But if you want that, you also have to accept when you're not performing to the level that people want to see you with. And whether it's right or wrong, and look, the nastiness that comes with it, there's a level that you can't cross. But for a guy like Christian Pulisic, when you put yourself in this position and you don't show up in the biggest match that U.S. was playing in, I mean, you should receive the brunt of all of these former players coming out and speaking of it, because guys like Donovan, guys like Tim Howard, guys like girls like Carly Lloyd, they were ones that they never once questioned that side of them when they performed.
I'm going to make a comparison. It's not a one-for-one apples-to-apples comparison. I want to make that very clear on the front end so that way people don't jump at me because of it. But like, just to use an example of what we're talking about here, Justin Brule the other day turned his ankle, right? He then comes back the next day and pitches for the St. Louis Cardinals, and doesn't just pitch for them, gives them 2 innings yesterday.
When they needed it desperately.
They desperately needed that. And I bet you Justin Brule didn't feel great yesterday.
You could tell he didn't feel great. Watch him walk off the mound.
Yeah. And that guy went out there and showed some real heart and toughness and grit to go out there and give them what they desperately needed. That's the kind of thing that athletes really respect, man. When you're willing to go out there and everybody knows you're not feeling your best and you don't have your best stuff or you don't have full control, whatever it is, right? Or your Yadier Molina, who's going out there with a testicle that exploded, and a week later, you're back into the lineup. Like, these are the kinds of things that your fellow teammates respect the hell out of it. And it garners attention and recognition and all of these different things within the locker room every bit as much as it does with the fan base. That stuff matters. And for Pulisic, it does not appear that whatever that it factor is when it comes to the toughness, it doesn't seem as though he has it, or at least perception becomes reality. People don't believe he has it. Yeah. And that is where he's at right now. He's going to have to change that perception for that to become different. And that's not an easy thing to do. Once that follows you in your career, it kind of becomes who you are. Joel Embiid, that's who he is. The guy gets hurt all the time, and people don't think he's going to play through it. Fair or otherwise, that's the criticism of him. Anthony Davis, same thing. Zion Williamson, same thing. NFL, Lamar Jackson's going to miss a few games a year. Whether it's his tummy's hurting or he's actually hurt, that guy's going to miss football games, and I think it's something that's starting to follow him a little bit. So the same thing is true right now for Christian Pulisic, fair or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's in every sport. It's the me versus we. It's, well, I don't feel the greatest, so I can't go out there, to whereas there's guys that go out there. I'll never forget having conversations with Joel Edmondson during that Cup run, and I think it was after the Dallas Stars series. That dude was limping every time he walked to the ice, and I would joke with him, be like, "You good?" And he's like, "Yep, I'll be out there." It's just my body is destroyed, but I'm going to give the effort that I possibly can so that the team can win. And if the coach deems me unusable, then that's fine, but I will be out there every chance you get. And I think that me versus we really stepped into play with Pulisic there towards the end, to where it's exhaustion, injuries, whatever it might be. And at that point when he injured himself, the game looked like it was out of reach for USA, and he was like, it's done. So I just let somebody else have that chance, to where it's like, no, man, Lionel Messi missed a penalty kick in that match the other day, and he still found a way to make an impact. That's the stuff where players rally around versus guys that you just can't be around.
FedEx Brian says, BK, stop with the Pulisic stuff, man. You didn't watch or see anything that happened with him in Serie A at AC Milan this past year. He walked into the World Cup basically still hurt. As a matter of fact, I invite you to my house to watch him play every weekend at the end of September. I have no interest in watching.
You got to be up at like 3 a.m., dude.
I don't know, FedEx Brian. I know he's got a Pulisic jersey.
I have no interest in watching him in Serie A. It's not something I'm interested in. I bet you Tim Howard watched a decent amount of him. I bet you Landon Donovan watched a decent amount of him. I bet you Carly Lloyd is probably familiar with what he did.
And I never heard them mention his previous injury coming into the World Cup tournament.
If these people are willing to critique it the way that they are, I feel like we've got free roam here. I don't feel bad about it at all. And like that's something that comes with this. That's what the money's for. That's the old saying for a reason. If you're in Christian Pulisic's status as the U.S. men's national team captain, you are paid the way that he is, which is handsomely, as a soccer player. This is part of it. It sucks. I'm not saying it's fair, justified, whatever, but this is what it is nowadays in professional sports, in stardom, whatever walk of life that brings with you, right? And so, because of that, you get the criticism. He also gets the glory. If the guy had an unbelievable game in the World Cup, what comes with that is what we're seeing with Jack Hughes and Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk. They got the glory, but the other side of that is the criticism that we see in Canada as they aren't able to get over the top, right? So it can be either side of that, and we're just witnessing the downside of it.
Look at Mitch Marner with the U.S. men's national team. Look at Mitch Marner, man. That dude was from Toronto. He was viewed as like an untouchable individual. And the more you couldn't perform in the biggest stage, the more the crowd got louder and said, no, man, you're not worth it. You're not putting the same effort out there that these other guys are doing. And now that was questionable in itself. And he showed that his ability to perform at that level. But when you put yourself in that position, when you're paid that much money, when you are drafted that high, you're viewed as somebody that, regardless if you're injured, we expect you to come out and provide the type of effort that everybody else on the ice is doing. And if it's not there, regardless if you're injured or not, if you're injured, you don't play, right? If you're too injured to go out there and try and win the game for your team, you don't play. Yep. But it's one thing to go out there and play through injury. It's another thing to go out there and perform to the level that's like, okay, you're not even trying at that front. And that's what Pulisic looked like in that last match.
Yeah, the perceived lack of effort, whether there was effort or not,
Right.
like the perceived lack of effort and lack of give a damn after the game. I think that's what rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Why don't you care about this the way that I do?
Yeah.
A lot of fans just want to see that people care. Right? I think that's something that, like, just use the Cardinals as an example.
Blues too.
I think that's part of what has played for this team is it feels like the team really cares. Right? They're super into this, and it has not always felt like that over the last few
That's
seasons.
the flip of the Blues this season. People were frustrated because they felt like the Blues didn't care.
And whether that was true or not, that was the perception from
Correct.
some portion of the fan base. And when they feel that, there is a gap that exists between the fans and the players, and that's when things start to get a little ugly. That's what's happened here with Christian Pulisic. I don't think that was the case for like Tim Ream. That guy very clearly cared.
Oh, yeah.
I can criticize the play on the field where he did not have a good game against Belgium.
He'd tell you that.
No doubt. But you could tell he gave a damn. Afterwards, in his post-game interview, he still had his kit on because he said, I don't want to take this thing off because I know how old I am. I know what my age is. And what went unsaid is that was probably the last time he's ever going to participate in a Team USA event.
Yeah.
And so for him, the give a damn factor was real. It was there, and you could feel it. You didn't have that with Christian Pulisic, and I think that's something that a lot of people just wanted to feel, they wanted to see. And until that changes, I think this is going to be the way that he's viewed among American fans. Coming up next, Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, have you used Waymo in any cities yet?
No. Is that
self-driving cars?
No, hell no. That scares the hell out of me.
T-Bone, have you yet?
I have not used it yet.
I'm interested in doing so, have not officially done it yet.
I don't travel an awful lot either.
I'm not even sure I've been to a city that's had it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
What cities have it?
A lot of West Coast cities where the weather's warmer, basically.
Oh, yeah, I don't go to the West Coast.
It's not in Chicago yet, right?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so
I think
either.
Atlanta has started to utilize it recently, but Phoenix, I think, has it. I want to say Vegas does. And then, like, LA, I think, has it. San Francisco.
I think the
a lot of West Coast places.
furthest west I have traveled is Kansas.
Mine would be
Really?
Vegas.
Yeah.
Never been to Denver?
Nope.
Haven't you been to Vegas?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yep. No.
You know,
I knew where Vegas was.
Nevada,
for some
right?
reason, I just completely forgot. That's the furthest west I've
I
gone.
thought maybe you were just confused because you were talking like in the last year.
Well, that's fair, but I mean, I haven't been to Vegas. I was there
would be
2
the
years ago.
Furthest west that I've been, and I think at the time when I went, they were starting to do what they're doing now, where Waymo was driving around, kind of.
I didn't even know they had the Waymo in Vegas.
The reason I bring this out,
I do a lot of walking in Vegas, though,
is because no doubt, it's easier to walk than it is to go down the strip.
Traffic sucks.
Although it's hot as hell in Vegas.
I mentioned, these Waymo cars, most of them are in the warmer weather climates because it's hard for them to navigate through snow, torrential downpour, these kinds of things. That changes the settings for the car. Well, a video in San Francisco was sent to their news department on the 4th of July.
Oh, God.
As a Waymo car was driving through the street, a person on the sidewalk lights a firework in that intersection.
Right over it.
The car didn't sense that there was a firework in the street, and so it drives over it, and the firework goes, and on the video, you hear the passenger say, "Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no, no, no."
Back up, Terry, back up. Put it in reverse, Terry.
The car continues to go, and one of the passengers says to another, "Are we on fire right now, dude?"
I guess you're not telling that to the driver.
Everything appeared to have been fine, but it's another one of those things where maybe on the 4th of July we avoid using Waymo.
Maybe in general we avoid using Waymo. I need a person who can stop in situations like that. No way.
Yeah, and to be like,
what happens on the highway if they don't sense?
That's one of those like little things to where like you don't even think about it probably in the moment when you're Waymo until it actually happens. You go, oh, yeah, we forgot about like not driving over a firework on the 4th of July.
But what happens like on the highway when you're going 65 miles an hour and a tire comes off of a truck and you have to avoid it?
I don't know, man.
It doesn't turn. You go down.
That one I would think it would sense because it's bigger. Like a firework can
but
be
in
like
that quick of a
like a little dynamite or something, right?
But in a split second like that, I don't think it notices that.
I think it does for something that's big. It should.
It's smaller.
It's supposed to sense
Okay, but
those
what
things?
if it's something on the ground that's just sitting in the middle of the highway?
You wouldn't expect that to be a problem. Like, there are rocks all over on the highway, right? And they kick up and they hit your windshield or whatever, but that's not a problem to drive over, typically. The reason that it's a problem is because it explodes.
I need a person. I just would like a person who can make human error versus a technological error.
And if Waymo was here to respond, they would say there are fewer errors from this than there are with human error because people are constantly texting in their cars nowadays.
And I'll say congrats, but I'm not getting in your car.
Totally fair.
They would say it has faster reaction time than a human.
Correct. But somebody on the text line, we've got a few of these. Austin, Texas is apparently another place that has them. Somebody, I can't confirm this, but Doug's Ding Gong says they stopped service in Atlanta because it drove a rider into a flooded road.
Is that like in The Office?
And according to the 618, Nashville has been in the trial phase for Waymo
I knew
as
they were
well.
in trial phase. Aren't they here driving around St. Louis too now?
I have no idea. Are they?
Not like, I think they're driving around. I should rephrase that. I think they're driving around here scanning the streets. If I'm not
Drove into
mistaken.
a flooded river.
I thought they were.
Waymo
I'm not
keeps
sure that.
testing St. Louis as a Missouri driverless car. Okay.
Michael, there's no road there. It's just the lake. It told me to turn right.
Now that's one that I would think it should pick up on. That one I got nothing on. Like
that's
the
tough,
firework,
man.
I see how it happened.
I just no way,
I'm not defending Waymo, but I can see how it didn't pick it up on the
I need a
sensor.
human element that's in control of my life.
All right, so I've got your cities for you. Cities where they are currently driving include Austin, Atlanta, according to their website, still
Until they
operating
drove
there.
into the water.
Yeah. Dallas, Houston, LA, Miami, Nashville, Orlando, Phoenix, San Antonio, and San Francisco.
Oh,
so basically,
when I go to Disney
Texas,
World,
California, Florida are the primary states that they're operating in, and then they also happen to operate in Nashville and Atlanta.
When you go to Disney World, you should take one and record your experience for us.
oh yeah, that's smart with 3 kids.
No, I wasn't saying take your kids.
Just me, myself?
I'm just willing to sacrifice you, not your 3 adorable daughters.
They are testing in St. Louis, though. That is one of the spots. Also, Tokyo. That is, it appears that is the first foreign country that they are looking to expand to, is in Tokyo, Japan.
Isn't Tokyo crazy on the streets?
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
was
a
gonna say, like New
massive,
York?
massive
I don't even know how
city.
many vehicles are traveling
They're
in Tokyo.
testing this in
That's a lot.
Pittsburgh. That's going to be a disaster. Pittsburgh is
I
just
would
all
think-
mountainous.
yeah, I would think
I don't think that's a good
Nashville's-
idea at all.
I would think Nashville's already a disaster.
They're checking Boston. Oh, boy. I don't know if you guys have been to Boston or tried to drive in Boston. That is my least favorite city in the country to try to
I'm
drive
smart
in.
enough to know if I go to Boston,
Oh.
not to drive.
That was our trip that we drove up the coast. We went from New York and drove all the way up. We went to Boston, Rhode Island, and Portland, Maine. Boston was miserable to drive in.
My family drove around Texas. That was miserable.
This is why I don't go on vacations very often.
Coming up in
Everywhere
15
you go is
minutes,
miserable.
we'll get into a game of more likely to happen. You guys give us 2 scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. But next, it's hard to overstate the gap that exists right now between the Cardinals and the Brewers. How long is this going to exist? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to our podcast, do so. Last Minute Blues podcast, Redbird Report, BK and Ferrario, hell, any 101 ESPN show, frankly, but especially BK and Ferrario, Redbird Report, and Last Minute Blues podcast.
Really do it on those.
Be sure to subscribe. That'll make sure that you get the podcast immediately when it's put into your feed. It's the easiest way for you to keep track of that, and frankly, it really helps us out a ton here on the show. So if you are interested in any of that content, please subscribe to those podcasts whenever you get a chance to do so. We appreciate that from the bottom of our heart. The other thing, if you want to sponsor the Redbird Report or the Last Minute Blues podcast, we've been told there are some new opportunities that could potentially be opening up there. Email myself or Alex Ferrario. We'll either get you in touch with the people that can give you information on that, or we'll try to help you out ourselves.
Yeah.
We can do that now.
Could email T-Bone too. You know, I don't know why.
Could E-Bone? What's E-Bone? Is that the email?
It's email.
Oh, it's the email of the bone.
B. Kiley at 101ESPN.com. A. Ferrario at 101ESPN.com. Or
T. Hendrickson at 101ESPN.com.
What? Who's Hendrickson?
My real name. People don't have to just call me T-Bone when you see me in public.
Nope, you're just T-Bone.
I'll
just
never
like
forget my landlord. And he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Oh, well, I work at 101 ESPN." And he said, "What's your name?" Tanner Hendrickson. I don't know, Tanner. You know T-Bone? Yeah, I know T-Bone. T-Bone.
It's weird. I get called BK a lot out in the open. I wonder why.
And I get called Alex sometimes. So
mostly in this building, though.
Again, subscribe to the podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring
Bring money
anything,
to us, please.
Go ahead and reach out to one of the three of us, but especially me or Alex.
We're here for you. Specifically me or Alex.
Oh, you mother.
The gap that exists right now between the Cardinals and the Brewers is hard to overstate.
It's like the gap in our friendship now.
The Cardinals have lost 7 games in a row against the Brewers. They're now 1-7 overall against them this year. Alex, when they don't play against Milwaukee, they are 46-36. When they do play against Milwaukee, 1-7.
I feel like I brought this up before, and we were like, no, they're actually decent against them. Not
they
this
were
year.
Early on, not this year.
Not this year.
This year, they've been outscored by a combined score in 8 games of 40-18.
Thanks a lot, Jared.
40-18. Now, yesterday did a lot in terms of what your pitching has done against them. You gave up 10 runs in that second game, and yeah, thanks, Jared. Prior to that, it was 30-16 in the 7 games to start out the season. I would say that's fine in terms of your pitching staff, giving up an average of 4 runs per game. Not ideal, but fine. You can live with that. The bigger problem there is scoring 16 runs in 7 games against the Milwaukee Brewers. It speaks to, A, the depth and the quality of the Brewers pitching, which is what the Cardinals are trying to get to, but also, man, you just haven't hit against them. This offense has done pretty well against most of the quality pitching that it's seen this year. The Brewers are the exception in that rule, Alex. What has led to this, in your opinion? Why is there such a big gap, or why does there feel like there's such a big gap between these two teams?
I mean, to me, it comes down to talent evaluation and pitching development. Those are the 2 areas that I think Milwaukee is excellent in. And I mean, look around Major League Baseball. With the exception of the Dodgers, the Brewers pitching has been the best in Major League Baseball in terms of runs allowed. You're seeing Mizorowski, you're seeing Kyle Harrison, you saw Quinn Priester last year. They have the ability to target somebody else's, I don't want to say trash, but trash, in the sense of like, this guy's not going to be anything for us, and say, we disagree. There's something that this individual does well, and we're going to target that. We're going to exploit that, and we're going to make him great. And then it comes down to the development side of things. When they get them into their system, they know exactly what they're working with. They fine-tune it in a matter of a snap of a finger. You're talking about this guy coming out of nowhere. Quinn Priester is the one that I still refer to from last year. And now you've got Kyle Harrison that they got this past offseason from Boston. So to me, it's that. It's the ability to evaluate talent in somebody else's system and say, we think this is better than what you believe he is. And then when they get their hands on him, they say, we could turn this into something big. And they have done it time and time again.
The reason for me would be the pitching pipeline. Because I think on the position player side, I think the Cardinals are somewhat comparable. And what I mean by that is, yeah, Milwaukee's developed some really good bats, right? Bryce Terang, very good player. Jackson Chourio, very good player. They did go external to acquire Contreras, another very good player, but they haven't developed a superstar.
Nope.
You know, and I'd argue the Cardinals have now that Jordan Walker has kind of clicked together. Now, he's not on that realm yet across the sport, but that's just because it's his first year. He sustains this. You will be talking about a guy that will be viewed as a potential superstar.
I would say similar this year, though, to to what Chourio is, to be fair.
I think when you're talking about Jordan Walker, I think you're going to talk about a guy that could be a superstar in the league for a while because you're talking 3,100 consistently. I don't know if Chourio will be able to do that or not. To
be fair, like Chourio has been as good this year basically as Jordan Walker. He just got off to a later start because he was hurt for the first month.
And he was really good last year for Milwaukee.
No doubt. But Chourio this year is batting .290 and has an OPS that's 35% above league average.
And he's almost got a 1,000 OPS against the Cardinals.
He's been amazing for the Milwaukee Brewers this year. I'm not denying what you're saying there, T-Bone. You know I've been in full agreement that they had not, prior to this, developed anything approaching a superstar. Chourio is the closest thing that I've seen from them to that. And what he's done this year, he has been performing through 60 games. It's a small sample size, relatively speaking. He's been performing, though, in those 60 games like a superstar. 6 stolen bases, 13 home runs, OPS that's 35% above league average.
Yeah, he keeps this up, he will be there. I kind of expect regression is coming for him at some point. Not to be a bad player, but I think 10 to 15% above league average. That's not a superstar. That's what he was the first 2 years of his career. That's
what
really
did Brewers
good player.
fans say that this was probably a blip for?
They would, but my point is if it continues, right? I mean, it's a bigger sample size this year so far for Walker. But that's not, my point isn't so much on the position player side. My point is on the pitching side. I mean, go back to even the comments last night from Ali Marmol. I mean, he made comments again where it was, hey, man, we had to push back McGreevy Pallante because we're afraid we don't have anything behind them, right? Now, I would argue they've got 3 starters behind those guys at the AAA level, but they don't feel confident enough in saying that. You ever hear Milwaukee complaining about that? Somehow it's another arm that always just keeps churning up. They call up some guy and you look at it and go, never heard of this guy. And then you look 3 weeks later and go, that guy's like striking out 9 per 9 innings, and he's got like a 3 ERA.
Do you know how many pitchers are currently on the IL for the Brewers?
Woodruff's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Priester's injured.
So I'm
going to say there's like 7 on the IL.
I'll say 4.
10.
Jesus.
10 pitchers. Now, 5 of them are starters, so it's not the entirety of that list that's a starting pitcher for them. But they have 10 pitchers currently on some kind of IL. Quinn Priester has missed the entire season so far.
And he will.
Woodruff just got put on the IL. So that's 2 of their top, 4 starters? Mm-hmm. Or at least what they thought were going to be 2 of their top 4 starters coming into the season that are on the injured list today, and they're still doing this. It's crazy, man. And that's right. Like that's the development that the Cardinals are trying to get to. They're not there yet. How long is it going to take for the Cardinals to catch up to this? Because it doesn't feel like a blip right now for the Brewers. This feels like...
Oh, this isn't a blip. They've been doing this for the last, 5 years?
Yeah, and they've got guys under control. And now you look at it yesterday, Baseball America put out their updated farm system rankings. Cardinals all the way up to number 6, by the way. They've got Rainiel Rodriguez at number 22 overall, Joshua Baez at 46, Liam Doyle at 52. They think that the Cardinals have a very good farm system. Brewers were at number 1. The number 1 farm system in Major League Baseball, according to Baseball America. And they're a hell of a lot better than you at the Major League level, too. What's it going to take for the Cardinals to catch up? How long is this going to be?
I mean, until the pipeline is ready on the pitching side, I do think these things change faster and will be quicker than what the number is I'm probably going to say. But, my conservative guess, half a decade, 5 years. I mean, I think you're talking about constantly potentially selling pieces off if they sell at the deadline and then going into the draft and adding to it. And then also trying to find a way to find the smaller victories, right? Like Quinn Priester was, I don't even know that's fair to call it a small victory. They traded away a freaking comp pick for that guy. That's what it's going to take to get to that point on the pitching side, because as much as we think Motts, Matthews, Dobbins are improvements in the minor league system, which they are for the Cardinals, then it's Doyle, Franklin, Senja, and maybe a couple others that are like Molina, for example. Like, when you talk about Milwaukee, you just mentioned they lost 10 guys. I didn't even name 10 guys right there that are close to the big leagues. So, I mean, you are talking about probably conservatively a 5-year period of trying to catch up just on the pitching side of things.
Which is, I mean, I would say close to that as well. Like 3 to 5 is what I would target with this. And it's why I go back to what we talked about in the beginning of the show. It's why I think they viewed this as, look, we're fine. This is a fun start to the year. Our pitching pipeline really has to start making leaps and bounds because they're still looking, and I think they're really targeting more swing and miss stuff in your system. And you've got to find those guys, and you've got to develop them, and you don't want to rush that in terms of the whole overall process of that guy becoming a big leaguer.
I think at least for regular season results, it's going to be at least a few years. Postseason is a different story entirely.
Yeah.
Which
You can't judge that until you see them in the postseason. And even if they would have made it this year, you're not judging anything with that pipeline because none of those guys you think are going to be a part of it.
From the 3-1-4, guys, the only teams that the Cardinals have faced this year that are good are LA without Ohtani pitching or hitting and Milwaukee. The rest were average or below, can't compete versus good teams and won't for a long time. If you believe that to be true, and I personally do not, that speaks to the lack of quality across the Major League this year because the Cardinals have played most of the teams in the National League.
They played everybody except Philly, right?
I believe so. Everybody that's good, at least, or what you would consider to be contending this season. They've played Arizona, they've played LA, Brewers, Cubs, Braves, Marlins. Like they've played all of these teams that are at the top of the standings in the National League. If you don't think they're good, that's, I think, fair. Like you can have that opinion. That's justified. But that's why I've been talking so much this season about the opportunity that exists for the Cardinals is because outside of the Brewers and the Dodgers, everybody feels incredibly flawed.
And they've shown that they're better than those teams by winning those series and pushing them down. I mean, Cincinnati, they've pushed them out of it. Pittsburgh, you pushed them out of it. Arizona, you can argue they did that, even though I know they lost that last series. San Diego, the times that they've beat them, like they've pushed those teams that are in the same realm as them, and they've been higher up than them after those series wins.
Yeah, they have a winning record against all of those teams basically outside of the Brewers that we're talking about. When you look at it in the aggregate of those games and those series, respectively. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line. You give us two different options. We'll tell you which one is more likely next here on BK and Ferrario. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. I've done this with Victory Men's Health, and you can too. Go to victorymenshealth.com. That's the easiest place for you to get started, and it's an incredibly easy process to do so. Go to their website again, victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. When you get there in the upper right-hand corner of the page, you see that Get Started tab. Click on that, put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and you are well on your way to unlocking your inner champion. The way they do it, you'll get that initial consultation. It's a visit where they'll take a bunch of different lab work. They'll find out where all of your different levels are at. You come back, and they will personalize a plan for you to unlock that inner champion. That means different things for different people. For some, it's low testosterone. For others, maybe it's weight loss goals. Maybe it's just, having them help you out with some of your supplementation for your diet and putting together a personalized plan that makes sure that you are the best version of yourself day to day. They also have red light therapy. They have cardiovascular testing. They've got vitamin infusions, all at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today at victorymenshealth.com. Book that first appointment online, victorymenshealth.com. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. For more likely to happen, you give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one's more likely. More likely, Alex, to be traded at the deadline for the Cardinals to improve their major league roster. Dustin May or Lars Nootbaar?
Lars Nootbaar. I don't think Dustin May improves your major league roster. I think he improves your pipeline. Lars Nootbaar, I can see a Bader for Montgomery scenario where you trade him to get a pitcher who's here for a couple of years. So,
are you saying trade them as like the Bader for Montgomery, or are you
Correct.
saying the replacement that's coming behind him? Like you trade
he's
Nootbaar,
thinking Baez for
comes up.
Nootbaar.
That's
No,
what
yeah, you're
talking
trading
about.
him for major league help.
I see what you're saying now.
Quote-unquote baseball trade.
Gotcha. I agree with Alex. I would say it's probably Nootbaar. I agree on May. I don't know what kind of move you could pull off where it's a baseball trade with May that actually helps you.
It would have to be for a third baseman, right? Because
Yeah,
it would be the inverse of the Bader deal, where you're in this scenario giving
May
up
for
to Montgomery.
Bohm and Philly or something like that. I don't think they would do that, but
Or him
that
for Paredes
Paredes from Houston, yeah.
That's actually a really interesting one that
I
you
just don't think
brought
the
up,
Cardinals
Alex.
like Paredes.
I've always liked that Alec Bowman, since he's going to be available. It's like the perfect placeholder, but Paredes is a good one as well.
Paredes is another interesting one.
I don't know. I just don't know if another team would do that to where they trade for, like, I don't know if May is to that
I think
level for them.
The problem is I think both teams would feel like they're winning the trade, right? Like I don't have interest in Bohm anymore.
He's been terrible.
I did last year. He's got some other stuff away from the field that's going on that I think's really altered his play. So maybe that you can view that as the excuse there. But I'm out. And Paredes, I just don't think they like Paredes, the Cardinals. And every team that has him basically wants to get rid of him the moment they have him.
It's true.
Which I don't think screams that he's a bad player in the locker room. I just think he has a weird skill set that I wouldn't want to trade May for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if you're going to trade May, you're probably doing so for assets. Like in the offseason, you have to look at what the opportunity cost is. And with May, the opportunity cost here by trading him at the deadline is giving up that second round comp pick, which allows for more flexibility in the draft, more potential for creativity in the draft as well, and just you get the second round pick, which you could also utilize there. So I think they would probably be going for some kind of a young player, whether that's a prospect or a guy that you're betting on the upside. Isaac Paredes is somebody that's not going to be around for a whole lot longer. He's a free agent in 28. And he's 28 years old. So, yeah, I would think it would be more likely that you see Newt traded for something that can help you in the rotation. Alex?
More likely to happen, boys. Justin Carbonneau scores 30 goals in the AHL this upcoming season, or at least 15 for the Blues this season.
30 in the AHL. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's more likely than him scoring 15 for the NHL because I don't think he's going to be here.
Yeah, I would lean AHL just because I know we disagree on this. I feel like I know he's going there already. So that means I don't know when he's here with the Blues.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, it's hard for me to kind of figure out when he's going to be able to score 15 goals. So I would say it's 30 in Springfield.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one as well. I think he spends a majority of the season. I do think he gets a good chunk of time at the NHL this season at some point. I don't know if he gets the 15, 10 maybe more likely, depending on how he adjusts, but I think 30 in the AHL.
I'm trying to look up who the AHL goal scoring leaders were for this past year. Okay, here we go. 25, 26 goal scoring leaders. There were only, I was curious how many players did this.
Yeah.
9 players in the AHL that had at least 30 goals.
It's hard for a lot of those guys because they're just not down there very much.
And they don't play the full 82 games schedule.
Yeah.
You know, they play like 70, I think, down there. So, yeah, there were only 9 of them. And players under the age of 23, Dylan Duke did it.
Tampa Bay guy, I think.
And Quinn Hudson did it. That's it.
I don't know who Quinn Hudson is.
How old is Carbonneau?
It's like 21. 20, 21.
Yeah, the only guys at the leading goal scorers at his age, Ilya Protas.
That's the stud for Washington.
He had 29 goals at 19 years old. And Bradley Nadeau, 20 years
That's
old,
a goal scorer
from Chicago.
Yeah, that's the Carolina Hurricanes
and he had
prospect.
27.
Yeah.
It's really hard, man. I think people underestimate how hard it is to score goals consistently at the AHL level.
Guys, more likely to be the first prospect we see post-deadline, Joshua Baez or Quinn Matthews?
Baez.
Yeah.
If they're going to trade Newt, Baez.
Yeah, that would be mine. I think they'll still slow play it with Matthews even after the trade deadline, even if they move May, because I think Dobbins moves into that spot, maybe Motts. I think if they're moving Nootbaar, Joshua Baez is the plan. That's why they're moving Nootbaar.
So what Alex just said is a big part of this. There's alternatives in the rotation, whereas in left field, I think it's very clear that's Baez's spot to lose.
Yeah. And I think you can make the case now, and you can kind of make this with Matthews now, that Baez is definitely ready, right, to try and see that next level. You can point to something still on Matthews and say, well, we'd really like to see the walks still be cut down, maybe a little deeper in outings. I don't know what your point would be on Baez at this point. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. It would be Baez.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. From the 314, guys, what's more likely? The Brewers over the next 2 years are what the Cardinals have been for the last 5. Or the Cardinals over the next 2 years become what the Brewers have been over the next 5. So basically, for the next 2 years, who's more likely to be good, the Cardinals or the Brewers?
Brewers. Yeah, I don't think the Brewers fall into the Cardinals.
Is it better
ever.
is it more likely for the Cardinals to be good or the Brewers to be bad?
I'd
Does
say
that
it's
make
more,
sense?
yeah, it's more likely for the Cardinals to be good. I don't think there's any scenario that the Brewers are bad. I just think they have too good of a system and pipeline in place that just team's not good. Until front office and coaches move on to different opportunities, Milwaukee's going to be the same team that they have been for the last 5 years.
I think it's Cardinals would be good because I could see where the pipeline is, like Doyle, Matthews, Senja, Franklin, all those guys get here quicker than expected, and they're all really good, and that's the thing that drives baseball is pitching. So you get to that spot. The Brewers, I know a lot of people keep saying they should trade for Skubal. They're not going to trade for Skubal, and they're not going to rob their pipeline to help them now because they believe in the sustainability crap. I think they're going to not move much for those pieces, and they're going to be good for a while.
The floor is just so high with them. I've got my quibbles with their ceiling. Their floor is really, really high.
But yet next year in the spring training, BK is going to be like, nah, I'm not buying into the Brewers. They're not going to be good this year.
I do that on the playoffs. This year I did it for their overall roster. Most seasons, though, I've said they're going to win 95 games, whatever. I don't care. They're going to get to the playoffs and they're going to lose in the DS or the CS.
I'm curious. I don't know if I've asked you this before. Do you find yourself rooting for the Brewers in the playoffs? See, I do. I want to see something different win.
I want to cap, so I need the Dodgers to sweep everyone.
I like when the Phillies are good in the playoffs. I like the Diamondbacks being good in the playoffs. I like the Rangers being good in the playoffs.
I like the Padres being good in the playoffs. That atmosphere's fun.
I like the teams that really try and go for it, and I don't feel like the Brewers do that. When they gave up at the deadline a few years ago and they traded Josh Hader, that was a moment where I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm good.
I mean, a thing that I might do.
Yeah.
I'm going to be rooting for the Dodgers, and I want them to sweep.
I'm consistent with this.
To be fair, I'm with you there. I mean, that will be the moment where I will be really critical of Heim and turn on.
It's really the same thing that
it's
Heim
very
did.
much the same thing.
I don't agree. He traded the best closer in the game at the time when the team was sitting in first place.
I don't think they were in first. I think they were behind the Cardinals.
I thought they were in first place in the Central at the time.
But that was definitely playoff.
That was the best. That would be the equivalent of the Cardinals trading Jordan Walker at the deadline.
No, it'd be like O'Brien.
I just don't think O'Brien is the same as what Josh Hader is.
He only had 1 year left on his deal at the time.
But he was like the best closer in the game. And I don't think Riley O'Brien is that.
No, that's fair. It's
different. It's different to me.
I agree.
Dustin May's pretty similar.
Pulling the plug on the team.
Dustin May's pretty similar, but like it's... Yeah, I guess that's probably more in line with it, but...
I think to be fair, like it's aged pretty gracefully because the return for that deal, I think, is what got them the prospects that ultimately landed them William Contreras and Robert Gasser, who started for them last night, was the pitcher in that deal. Now, he has basically done nothing because he's dealt with a ton of injuries, but it's aged pretty well. Yeah. You could argue it was the right move now looking back on it. That's not the way I would operate. I would have gone the rest of the season. I think they still could have gotten a good deal for Hader in the offseason.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd view it. All right. From the manager, Lou Brown, more likely to happen. Dodgers win the World Series or the Brewers win the NLCS?
Dodgers win the World Series.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I think we're on a collision course between Dodgers and Yankees in the World Series.
I agree.
That's going to be great for the cap.
What would be the reason I said I find myself rooting for the Brewers also is just to shove it in Manfred's face. I want like Brewers, Rays. Let's do this thing for the World Series.
No, man, I want a cap.
From Soggy Biscuit.
Oh,
more likely to happen: the Blues sign Big Daddy Vladdy or Oscar Sundquist.
Oscar Sundquist.
I agree.
Because I think Sonny could. I don't know if he'd do it, but I could see him getting like one of those
two-way deals, entry level.
Yeah, or like a training camp tryout like they did with Lucic last year.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised nobody has signed Sonny because that dude is so banged up. But I'll be curious to see if somebody gives him a shot at the NHL roster.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, Cardinals have 5 games remaining prior to the All-Star break. What's at stake for them over these next 5 games? What does this represent for them? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell twice yesterday to the Milwaukee Brewers. Game 4 of their 5-game set against Milwaukee is tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Michael McGreevy will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Cardinals have 5 games remaining prior to the All-Star break, Alex. It's a sprint to the finish now. You went through, this was the grind over the last 4 or 5 days. Got that series at Wrigley, come back home, immediately have a doubleheader against one of the best teams in the National League in the Brewers. It did not go well, frankly. The last 4 days, or last 4 games rather, you're 0-4. Not a great start to this stretch. But now you've got McGreevy today. That should be a good way to get your bullpen another day where they don't have to be relied upon in a heavy way. It's entirely possible. Today the plan is Gastelum, go straight into Soriano, and then Riley O'Brien, close that thing out. You've got 6 innings out of your starter in McGreevy, and then 7, 8, 9 are taken care of. You don't have to go to anybody else. And then tomorrow might be the exact same plan. If Pallante is able to do what he's been doing for most of the season, get you through 6, then you could go right back to those same guys, frankly. And then maybe on Friday, you've got somebody else that takes care of some of that business. But what's at stake here, Alex? Like, if they play really well over these next 5 games, does it wash away the bad taste that's been in your mouth for the last few? If they go really poorly, is it like feeling like the same story as last year all over again? What are you looking for?
So there's 2 sides of this conversation, because one, like in my mind, I've already kind of got to the assumption that they're going to be selling at the deadline, so it's hard to steer away from that. Okay. But in terms of the fit, like the feel of the Cardinals, I don't think I remember anything that happened in these first 3 games of the Brewers series if you win the next 2 and then win 2 of 3 against the Braves. Because in my mind, you took 2 of 5 against the Brewers, which is a task that we all agreed, like coming into it, would have been a success in my book for how torn up your pitching staff was. But then you also won both series against the Braves. And that's the real competition, I think, that you were going up against versus the Brewers, who are clear-cut the best team in the National League, right behind the LA Dodgers or on par with them. So it's a weird spot to be in, because on one side of the conversation, my assumption is this team's going to be selling no matter what, and then if they make the playoffs, great. But in terms of the Cardinals on-field product, yeah, I don't really care about the first 3 games against the Brewers, because if you get your pitching back on track, if your bullpen gets a little bit more rest because guys are able to give you the length and your offense comes through and you win those series against the Braves, that's what I was judging you against all along.
Yeah, I think if you're able to salvage this series, if you can find a way to get 2 here, if you can get 2 or 3 from Atlanta, like, you forget about the failures and the embarrassment that was last night and the butt whooping the Brewers gave to you through the first 3 games. Because I think we said all along going into the stretch, you go 4-4, you'd be happy about it. Yep. Now, the thing that kind of makes it feel worse currently is not just the way you lost the first 3 games, but it's also the fact that, I mean, you mentioned it, the Marlins have leapfrogged you and moved to 2 games ahead of you in the wild card standings. Like, as of today, if the deadline were today, I can tell you the Cardinals would be sellers. And I wouldn't even push back against it. 2 games out, tiebreak for me would be saying you're going towards sell mode. I think that's what's kind of on the line here over the next 5 days. Not so much that they determine that they're sellers, but I mentioned this before this stretch started. It really pushes the percentages into the favor of sell mode. If you lose another one here, you drop 4 of 5 to the Brewers, and then you drop 2 of 3 against Atlanta, man, you're probably going into the break around 3 to 4 games behind the wild card picture, and that's before I even know if some of these other teams behind you end up leapfrogging. That's when you really start to say, okay, the odds are not in their favor, and they are trending towards sell mode by the deadline.
All you have to do is beat Kyle Harrison. That's it.
Hey, you did a good job against Mizorowski.
Honestly, they did. Did not do so well against
You guys
Gasser,
thought I was being sarcastic there, didn't you?
No, you can't really ask for much more. They basically did against Mizorowski what they typically do against Paul Skeens. Give yourself a chance to win.
Yep.
And that's all you can ask from the offense when you're going up against that level of starting pitcher.
The difference is that was a one-off against Mizorowski. Every time they go up against Paul Skeens, they beat him up.
And it looks kind of similar to what it did yesterday. That was not a dominant outing by the offense, but they were able to grind it out, got a couple of big hits. You got the huge one by Jordan Walker, and you find a way to get to the bullpen, and you hope, hey, put up another extra insurance run, and boom, you win the game.
Yeah.
They didn't get that extra insurance run yesterday. That ultimately is, in part, why they lost the game. But, yeah, it hasn't been quite as good lately for Kyle Harrison as it was early in the season. He was spectacular. It looked like, oh, my God, here we go again with the Brewers. But since the start of June, he's been around a 5 ERA. He's been a mid-rotation starter since then. He hasn't been getting quite as deep into these games. The strikeout stuff, not quite what it was earlier in the season either. So we'll see. We'll see what the Cardinals are able to do against him today. But if they're able to get to him, the offense looks a little better. You get a good start. It looks like a refreshed version of McGreevy. They could basically start anew tomorrow. And if you get Gastelum who comes up and he looks great coming out of the pen, and you feel a little bit better, things are settled down there, even if you win, let's call it 3 of the next 5, I feel pretty good about that. Because that means you go into the break. You've won 3 out of 5 against Milwaukee and Atlanta. You took care of business in the last series against Atlanta as well. You won 2 out of 3 against the Cubs. These are your direct competitors. The bigger problem was losing 2 out of 3 against Miami. Didn't feel that way at the time, but apparently that's one of the direct threats to the Cardinals to potentially get one of these playoff spots. The Miami Marlins are a real team, man. That team is a hell of a lot better than I think anybody anticipated this year.
Well, and it comes from their pitching staff, which has been impressive, which you hope you can do a pipeline like that. But it also comes with some of the players that they've acquired. Homegrown guys. And what Stauer's been doing this year, because that was one of those.
He's been good.
That was one of those
for power.
That was one of those target trades that they realized that there's something in this in the minor league system, and they said, let's go get this guy.
No doubt. And then you look at like Xavier Edwards, he's batting 300 for them. Otto Lopez is ridiculous. He's batting 350 so far on the season. And then Liam Hicks, a 27-year-old catcher for them, who last year was just okay at the big league level. He's now batting 295 with an OPS of 840 with 13 homers. Again, as a catcher for the Miami Marlins. All of this stuff just kind of came out of nowhere. This has been a season where I found it kind of interesting just as a Major League Baseball storyline. Have you guys seen what the Nationals' offensive numbers look like this year for some of their young talent compared to a year ago? It's crazy. The organization had a fresh start with a new general manager in charge, new manager in charge, and now James Wood this year has 25 homers. C.J. Abrams, who was mediocre last year, has 19 on the season as a young, decent defensive shortstop who's now batting 275 with an OPS over 850.
Yeah, if they could just figure out their pitching staff.
Yeah. I just mentioned the Marlins, who have seen kind of a new regime take over. The Chicago White Sox this year have been one of the biggest stories in Major League Baseball, and the same thing for the Cardinals. It's been a first half of real surprises across baseball, which is pretty rare.
Hasn't really gone well for the Giants, though.
No.
New manager.
To be fair, I think outside of Miami, the National League is kind of, at first it was a bunch of surprises. It is starting to get back more towards what expectations were.
No doubt.
Because Philly righted the ship.
The Rays have been a surprise as well.
Yeah.
The American League is where the huge
the White Sox and the Rays,
place.
Wow.
Yeah, the AL, and I don't know if that's just because the AL sucks.
Yeah, which is very possible.
I think that might
the
be
Royals
why.
went the opposite direction to where I thought they were going
and
in
the
the
Tigers.
Yeah.
And the Tigers were another team that we thought, oh, maybe they could. No.
Dude, half of the American League playoff field from a year ago is just completely fallen off this year.
The only team that's real, well, I don't even know if that's fair, but they're in the East with the Rays. But I say the only team that it feels like has met the expectation was the Yankees. And even then,
they're doing this without Judge right now.
Yeah, I was saying even
Kudos
then
to
they've
them.
started to fall off. They're 2-8 in their last 10 because they're without Judge.
Yeah. Seattle. They got off to a slow start, but they're right at the top of the AL West again. They're not great.
I was saying
Athletics
2
have
games
gone
above
another
500, which is wild.
I thought the Athletics were going to be a little bit more competitive with all those young offensive players, but they've kind of, I guess they're still
the Cardinals
in it.
would have be
I was just gonna look
tied
that up, yeah.
for the second best record in the AL with the Chicago White Sox.
Third best.
No, they're at 5. Oh, yeah, sorry, because the Yankees. Yeah, third best. Tied for third best with the White Sox.
That's unbelievable. This bleeping league, man.
Eric Fetty, man, just continues to win.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, you've got BK and Ferrario here on 101
Better
ESPN.
ERA than Libby.
God, that's frustrating. That's incredibly frustrating.
Hey, we don't have any better options.
He has a 4.3 ERA this year. God,
1.4 whip, like not bad.
Maybe the cherry on top of it all. Ryan Villade's good for the Tampa Bay Rays.
That's true.
We don't need him, man. Our outfield's good. Okay?
Rewind is next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
If that's not easy for you, another way to go, honestly, I think this is the easiest way. Wherever it is that you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple or Spotify or wherever it is, just go ahead and subscribe to the feed there. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. That is the easiest way to make sure whenever the podcast is uploaded, it's directly going to give you the feed from that day's show with BK and Ferrario. You will also, through the BK and Ferrario feed, get the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast and the Redbird Report. So BK and Ferrario, just search it wherever it is that you get your podcast, and that'll be the easiest way. Then you can also, like, if you ever miss an interview from the show, those are all directly uploaded separately. You can just go back and re-listen to your favorite interviews, your favorite segments, whatever it is that you want from that.
And make sure you subscribe to all of those and set those notifications so that when there's a new episode that drops, you get the ding.
That's right. And once again, if you guys or somebody that you know is interested in becoming a partner with the Last Minute Blues podcast or the Redbird Report, reach out to myself or Alex Ferrario. You could also reach out to T-Bone.
Not Tanner. No, not Tanner.
I don't know the tone problem with BK
or Alex.
You're ballistic to me. A
the Last
punchable
Minute
face.
Blues podcast or the Redbird
I think
Report.
it's a punchable voice, actually. His face is fine. It's just the voice.
I think it's all the above.
Bot.
Cardinals back in action this evening. They've lost 4 in a row. It has not gone well. They're 1-7 this year against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's Kyle Harrison going up against Michael McGreevy. Alex, what are you anticipating going into this game tonight?
Low-scoring game, and I'm anticipating Michael McGreevy pitching a lot of innings, hopefully for the Cardinals. This feels like the one that the Cardinals have to be pissed off of how yesterday went to where they get this one, but Kyle Harrison's going to be tough. So I say a 3-2 final score, Cardinals lose.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh,
Were you surprised by that?
Well, yeah, based upon everything that was leading up till the final
You
statement.
know what, man?
It was a bit surprising to me.
I don't like people figuring me out. I want people to always be on the edge of their seat.
Yeah, I think Brewers are a bad matchup for McGreevy. I'll say Cardinals lose as well, but I think he does hero's work and goes at least 6 innings tonight.
Do we see Alec Burleson in the starting lineup?
Oh,
I say no.
I say no.
2
I'll
days
say-
off, though, in this series is a lot.
yeah, I'll say yes. I think they'll put him in there. They'll hit him like 5 or 6. Somewhere
Is
in that
Jimmy
range.
Crooks the starting catcher, or is it going to be Pedro Pajes behind the plate tonight?
I say Jimmy Crooks.
I say Pedro Pajes.
I say Pajes. Crooks
Is
in-
Gastelum going to appear at some point
Yes.
tonight?
Yes, I think he may have to.
Yeah. Not
I
only
think
do
it's a
I think
no-doubter.
he is activated, I think he will get a touch tonight in this game.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals come away with a win tonight. I think you will see Jose Fermin as your starting third baseman tonight, and I think Blaze Jordan gets the start at first with Pedro Pajes behind the plate. So I don't know if you're going to love what the
And they're
lineup looks
winning?
like going into this evening, but I do think they get the win. I think it's a good night for Michael McGreevy on the mound. I think they ultimately get a win tonight, 3-2. So same score as you, Alex, but in reverse. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.